What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. Tensu Chapter 161 Orochimaru, Sharingan Clone. In the Hokage's office, a hurried notice came. Hokage-sama, urgent documents. The Anbu members presented a scroll, and the third Hokage looked solemn and waved his hand to signal the Anbu to retreat. Unfolding the scroll, it was the logo of Morino Ibiki. After carefully reading Ibiki's report, the third generation's eyes flashed with light, and it was hard to hide their joy. Although Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi are currently in a stalemate, the subsequent direction is unknown. But last night's battle between Obito and Kawasaki accidentally revealed the information that the third Hokage was eager to confirm. The Uchiha clan's Mangekyō Sharingan does have defects. According to Ibiki's description, both Kawasaki and Itachi. When using Susanoo, their eyes will bleed, and Itachi eventually falls into a coma. This directly confirms the accuracy of Orochimaru's intelligence and proves that Orochimaru is trustworthy. Uchiha Fugaku has not appeared for a long time, and it is obvious that there is something wrong with his eyes, and Itachi is also injured. Now the top Uchiha masters are only Kawasaki and Shisui. The situation is favorable to us. In the meeting room of Konoha village, the daimyo's envoy arrived. Originally, the envoy could go directly to Orochimaru, but this time the third Hokage made an exception and accompanied him personally, which surprised the envoy. After all, the strength of Konoha makes the actual status of Hokage higher than that of the Fire Country daimyo. There were only the envoy and his two followers in the meeting room. The third Hokage came alone without any elders, but his attitude was very easygoing. The envoy knew that Orochimaru was the disciple of the third Hokage, and revealed the purpose of this trip to the third generation before Orochimaru arrived. Lord Orochimaru's plan was a complete success. The central factory has been successfully established. We used the original shop to replace the products. Now the entire Fire Country catering industry is very profitable, and the daimyo is very satisfied. I was specially ordered to come here to commend Lord Orochimaru and hand over this month's profit dividend of 100 million. The third Hokage was stunned when he heard this. 100 million this month? The envoy thought that the Hokage was dissatisfied with the amount, and hurriedly apologized and explained, "Please forgive me, Lord Hokage. The central factory was just built, and the materials and production capacity are limited. Therefore, the dividend to Lord Orochimaru is only 100 million for the time being." The third generation was shocked in their hearts, but they still greeted the envoy gently on the surface. Soon, he found out that of the 100 million monthly profits, Orochimaru accounted for 30%, and the Uchiha clan accounted for 60%. The third generation was shocked by this income, and wondered whether they could benefit from it. Advertisement Orochimaru arrived soon, and the envoy said respectfully, "Hello, Lord Orochimaru. The daimyo sent me to bring the first month's dividends for you and Uchiha." Orochimaru was quite polite to the person who brought the money. "Thank you for making this trip. Uchiha was unable to come because of something. Just give me the money directly." The envoy was slightly surprised, and then signaled his subordinates. The subordinate bit his finger and quickly formed a seal. The summoning technique was activated, and a huge lizard appeared in the reception room. The lizard was huge, standing nearly 2 meters tall and over 5 meters long. If it were not for the spacious Konoha reception room, it would be almost impossible to accommodate it. The lizard was quiet and docile, covered with thick scales, carrying several packages and rope ladders. The envoy's subordinates climbed the rope ladder swiftly and unloaded 8 boxes of property several times. The envoy opened the box and showed Orochimaru a box full of high-value banknotes, each box containing 40 million. Orochimaru nodded with satisfaction and said, "Very good, the money has been received. Please give my regards to the daimyo. The raw materials for the central factory must be collected as soon as possible, and the energy must also be raised." Afterwards, Orochimaru politely chatted with the envoy for a few words, and the envoy said goodbye and left. The third generation witnessed Orochimaru sorting the money, dividing 150 million into 3 boxes and storing the rest in the storage scroll. The third generation thought about Orochimaru's plan. "Are you sure about Uchiha?" Orochimaru put the money aside and said to the third generation, "Uchiha Itachi's eye injury is serious this time. Kawasaki has contacted me. Unless it is cloned, Itachi will go blind." The third generation frowned. "Sharingan can also be cloned?" Orochimaru chuckled. "Although it can be cloned, it is not easy for Uchiha to open his eyes in the cloned state. Itachi took more than 10 years to open Mangekyō, and it may not be possible to do it again." This is true. The evolution of Sharingan is due to the effect of the special chakra in the Uchiha's brain on the visual nerve. Once the cloned eye is implanted, it is extremely difficult to achieve Mangekyō again. Some experiences may not repeat the same effect. "Old sir, you have to think carefully. Now is the opportunity to eliminate Uchiha. If you delay, Uchiha Hikari may be able to make a comeback." Orochimaru's tone was unhappy, and he was quite dissatisfied with the third generation's conciliatory strategy. The third generation took a puff of cigarette. "The timing is good, but Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi have already started a war. Cloud Shinobi seems to be unwilling to stop until Mist Shinobi is destroyed. The reaction of Mist Shinobi shows that there is a problem with their Jinchuriki. This war may continue and even lead to a full-scale melee. At this moment, Konoha should not suffer any losses, otherwise we will lose the initiative. Please give me flowers, advertisement. Orochimaru seemed to be persuaded by the third generation. Okay, Uchiha Kawasaki has sent me a message. Kawasaki will bring Itachi your loan today. You should arrange the staff at that time to prevent any accidents. The third generation nodded gently and murmured in his heart. Why don't I call Tsunade as well? Hearing this, Orochimaru's tone was full of uncertainty. Tsunade is not very reliable now, the risk is too high. Instead of calling her, why don't you find me 2 prisoners? Orochimaru curled his lips, and his eyes flashed with deep malice. The third Hokage was surprised. Could it be? Orochimaru licked his lips with his tongue. Yes, that's right, it's the technique of Tobirama-sama. You actually learned that technique. The third Hokage said in a deep voice. You can't use this technique inside Konoha. Orochimaru understood what the third Hokage meant and shrugged. Just in case, anyway, you and Jiraiya are here. The third generation walked back and forth and thought about it. Thinking of Kawasaki Susanoo's might, he finally nodded. I'll send 2 people to you later. In the afternoon, Anbu sent a message. Kawasaki really took Itachi, who was blindfolded and wrapped in gauze, to find Orochimaru. Orochimaru stayed in the laboratory every day, and the houses around him were all Orochimaru's property. It had just been renovated recently, and no one had moved in yet, so it had been empty. Although Kawasaki avoided many Anbu, the third Hokage had already known about it. So some clues were still discovered. In addition to Orochimaru's men, there was also Hitaki Kakashi sent by the third Hokage in Orochimaru's laboratory. It happened that Kakashi often had to visit Orochimaru because of the copying of the eye, so Kakashi seemed very natural there. At this time, the third Hokage had already put on his combat uniform, and Jiraiya was also called to his side. In Konoha village, Kawasaki arrived at the laboratory early in the morning. When he entered the laboratory, he saw only Orochimaru and Kakashi. Orochimaru and Kawasaki went out quickly. Before leaving, Orochimaru gave Kakashi winked. Kakashi immediately understood. Although he was a little hesitant, he suppressed his uneasiness because it was the order of the Hokage. After Orochimaru and Kawasaki left, Kakashi approached Itachi. Chapter 162 Lord Kawasaki. Yamada no Orochi. Boom. Boom, a loud bang. Orochimaru's laboratory was smashed to pieces by a golden Susanoo. An angry roar followed. Orochimaru, you betrayed me. Although Susanoo was only in its initial skeletal form, each attack was incredibly powerful. Boom. 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 The surrounding buildings collapsed one after another. Orochimaru dodged left and right under Susanoo's attack. His body twisted into an unimaginable angle. Hee, Kawasaki-kun, how can you say it's betrayal? You've imposed the distinguished heavenly gods on me, and I haven't settled the score with you yet. Kawasaki's face changed drastically. Orochimaru smiled triumphantly. With Orochimaru's cold laughter, he soared into the air. Finger seals. Summoning technique, a huge figure appeared at the scene. Orochimaru, is this the guy? Orochimaru stood on top of the 10,000 snakes, 00. Don't worry, I'll do what I promised you after I've dealt with him. A hint of coldness flashed across Orochimaru's eyes. The 10,000 snakes opened their mouths and exhaled a foul smell. Very good, I'm very satisfied with this deal. His voice was so loud that the whole venue was buzzing. Kawasaki, I hope you'll be happy with this gift. Orochimaru laughed wildly in the air with malice. Kawasaki sneered, and his pupil power suddenly burst out. Chakra surged out of his body, and the golden Susanoo instantly expanded from the skeleton. It became 50 meters high, 1 head taller than the 10,000 snakes. A huge shadow covered the 10,000 snakes, and the 10,000 snakes felt oppression for the first time. It said cautiously, Orochimaru, this battle may require additional sacrifices. Orochimaru made a seal with both hands on top of the 10,000 snakes' heads. Don't worry, everything will be easy if we defeat him. Yaki technique. As his figure changed, Orochimaru suddenly expanded into a huge white snake. The number of snake heads continued to increase. In a short while, he transformed into Yaki Great Snake. Hiss. Accompanied by the hissing of the snake, the 8-headed snake pounced with the 10,000 snakes. Kawasaki drew out the weapon worn by Susanoo and cut off a snake head with one knife. Soon, more snake heads came entangled. Advertisement. Seeing Orochimaru working so hard, the 10,000 snakes also joined the battle. Susanoo fought fiercely with the 2 giant snakes, causing the surrounding buildings to collapse one after another. Dust rose into the sky and filled everywhere, and in this situation, no one came to check. On the roof not far away, the third Hokage and Jiraiya stood side by side. Anbu members were reporting, Hokage-sama, all nearby people have been evacuated. The barrier team is ready. The third generation waved their hands and signaled, action, activate the barrier. Yes. After the Anbu members left, a green barrier quickly rose around them. Kawasaki, Orochimaru, third generation, Jiraiya and others were all covered in it. This barrier is not used to block entry and exit. It is to isolate sound. As soon as the barrier was established, the fighting between the 4 vipers and the 2 snakes rumbled. But no sound could be heard outside the barrier. After the barrier was fully deployed, the 3rd generation flicked his sleeves, revealing the combat uniform inside, and rushed to the battlefield with Jiraiya. The 2 giant snakes fought with Kawasaki's Susanoo. The Yamada no Orochi lost 5 heads, and the scales of the 10,000 snakes turned over, revealing the terrifying knife marks. Susanoo's sword was broken by Manda and disappeared without a trace. The 2 sides separated for the time being, and Kawasaki stood breathlessly on Susanoo's head. Manda had already retreated. However, Orochimaru crawled out of the mouth of Yamada no Orochi and said to Manda, "Manda, if you beat him, I will give you another 1,000 sacrifices." Manda's eyes flashed with greed. "Orochimaru, don't break your promise." Orochimaru accidentally met Kawasaki's eyes. "Don't worry, when have I ever lied to you?" Manda's morale was greatly boosted with a long hiss. Orochimaru's severed heads were also reborn one by one. At this moment, Kawasaki condensed a weapon in Susanoo's hand again, and he continued to inject pupil power, and the weapon became sharper. Susanoo strode forward with a sword, and Manda rushed over fiercely. Orochimaru's Yamada no Orochi was slightly inferior. Clang! In an instant, Manda's head flew into the sky. There was still a desire for sacrifice and disbelief in reality in his eyes. Why did his weapon become so sharp? Just now, boom! The heads of the 10,000 snakes stirred up dust all over the sky. Blood fell to the ground like rain. The 10,000 snakes on the ground had not yet died. Why, sir? Before he finished speaking, his pupils twitched and lost all their luster. Advertisement Orochimaru saw the 10,000 snakes die, and he showed no regret at all. He controlled the Yamada no Orochi to roll towards Susanoo. Kawasaki's Susanoo was obviously exhausted and his movements were much slower. After continuous slashes, the head of the Yamada no Orochi still regenerated. In the end, Susanoo and the Yamada no Orochi collided violently and then separated. Kawasaki wiped his cheek, as if it was a trace left by blood. Orochimaru panted and smiled. "Kawasaki-kun, give up. I know the weakness of your Susanoo very well. How long can you maintain Susanoo now?" Kawasaki took a deep breath. "At least it's enough to kill you." Orochimaru narrowed his eyes slightly. "Oh." The headless snake body beside Orochimaru began to regenerate a new head. Kawasaki's face was not very good. He seemed to have no good way to deal with Orochimaru's constantly regenerating snakehead. The 3rd Hokage jumped into the field. "Okay, Kawasaki, let's talk it over." Jiraiya stood behind the 3rd Hokage fully armed. "Kawasaki, forget it, there are Anbu people all around." Kawasaki covered his eyes and laughed wildly. "What a joke. You Konoha people want to destroy Uchiha from the bottom of your heart, and you want me to surrender, dream on." Kawasaki's whole body seemed to be burning, and a huge amount of chakra surged out. Wathothoth ow ow. Accompanied by Kawasaki's screams, blood seeped out from between his fingers. Driven by the powerful pupil power, Susanoo became bigger. The armor on his body became more vivid. A faint light shone on Susanoo's blade. A huge sense of oppression swept the whole scene. The 3rd generation's heart sank, and things seemed to be developing in the worst direction. Jiraiya was also ready to start Sage Mode. "Stop it, Lord Kawasaki, if you want Itachi to be safe." Kakashi's voice sounded. Kawasaki put down his hands covering his face and looked carefully. Kakashi appeared on the scene holding the unconscious Itachi. A short sword 1.4 was already on Itachi's neck. Kawasaki immediately calmed down, and the chakra in his body stopped bursting. "Kakashi, let Itachi go." Facing the tens of meters high Susanoo, Kakashi still said calmly. "Kawasaki Lord, we Konoha only want to coexist peacefully with Uchiha. Please stop fighting. I believe that Hokage Lord can handle this matter properly." Kawasaki looked at Kakashi, who was ready to fight for Konoha, and a cruel sneer appeared on his face. The huge Susanoo slowly dissipated in the air, and Kawasaki jumped down from the sky. "How stupid." Kawasaki's voice was like thunder. "Kakashi, Danzo was the mastermind behind White Fang's death, and the 3rd generation turned a blind eye to it. You are still working for Konoha." Kakashi was shocked, and the whole person was stunned as if struck by lightning. Kawasaki used a body flicker technique to take Itachi back from him. Chapter 163 Impure World Reincarnation, Konoha's Compensation. Itachi was just unconscious, nothing serious. Kakashi suddenly woke up and said, "Kawasaki, you lied to me." At this time, the 3rd Hokage and Jiraiya were shocked and hurried to Kakashi's side. The 3rd Hokage said angrily, "Kawasaki, what are you talking about?" Kawasaki sneered. "Why, you don't admit what you did." The 3rd generation looked cold. "Kawasaki, your plan to sow discord is too low level. White Fang has made great contributions to the village. Why should I kill him?" Kawasaki laughed. "White Fang's achievements are so great that he is unrivaled at the time. You can't control him at all. Danzo wants to be Hokage, and the first person he has to eliminate is White Fang. You and Danzo are in cahoots. Knowing that White Fang values reputation more than life, you use his failure to complete the task as an article to attack him. It eventually led to his suicide." Kakashi's pupils shrank when he heard this. He knew his father's character, and what Kawasaki said was very likely true. He looked at the third Hokage in disbelief. The death of Hitaki Tsukumo left Kakashi with too much pain. Kakashi's entire childhood was shrouded in a shadow. But Kakashi was young at that time and did not notice anything wrong. The third Hokage caught a glimpse of Kakashi's eyes and his heart sank. Kawasaki was so vicious that he brought up the old things from many years ago. At that time, he just wanted to hit White Fang and curb his arrogance. Who would have thought that White Fang would choose to end his life? The third generation could only snort angrily and said, Kawasaki, you are also the same age as Kakashi. How could you know these inside stories? Your words are not credible. Kawasaki raised his head and said, although I am young, I am a member of the Uchiha tribe and was in the guard team back then. What information do we not know? Danzo had contact with the people rescued by White Fang back then, and then publicly accused White Fang, which was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The third generation snorted coldly. That only means that all this is Danzo's doing. What does it have to do with me? When I intervened, public opinion had already been formed. White Fang's death was purely accidental. Ha ha, ha ha ha, what a big joke. Kawasaki laughed wildly. You can lie to ghosts about these words. You are Hokage. How can you not know about such rumors in the village? What are your Anbu doing for a living? When you monitored our Uchiha, you were monitoring everything. When there was public opinion against White Fang, you became deaf and blind. Public opinion was boiling, the whole Konoha knew about it, but you, the third Hokage, pretended to be deaf and dumb. Isn't this connivance? Wait until White Fang died, and then you came out hypocritically to stop public opinion. What were you doing before? Advertisement, you killed White Fang because once White Fang became Hokage, he would no longer listen to you. Third Hokage, you have long been corrupted by power, which is why you are reluctant to step down from that position. Third Hokage took a deep breath and said, I have never been obsessed with power. Everything I have done is for Konoha. This sentence is firm and powerful, and it is righteous. Kawasaki pointed at Kakashi and said, Stupid Kakashi, do you know why I look down on you? You have talent but you don't work hard. You are muddle-headed all day long. There are many suspicious points about your father's death, but you don't investigate it yourself, but listen to the third generation. As long as you use your brain a little, you will understand that with your father's prestige and honor, how can you attract such public opinion? The person who harmed you is right in front of you, but I didn't expect that for so many years, you have been a running dog for the third Hokage. You know that Obito is the mastermind behind the Nine Tails incident, but you don't expose it. This is unkind. The fourth generation is so good to you, but you don't take care of the orphans left by the fourth generation. This is unjust. Your father's death is suspicious, but you don't make progress and don't investigate. This is unfilial. In the end, only loyalty remains. Serving the enemy who murdered your father. You are so loyal. Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. Every word of Kawasaki hit Kakashi's heart like a heavy hammer. Kakashi stood unsteadily and staggered back. He murmured. No. Impossible. No. Seeing Kakashi like this, the third generation hated Kawasaki and said, Kakashi, don't be fooled by Kawasaki. What he said is not true. Kawasaki. Kakashi doesn't know anything about Nine Tails. It was my order not to take care of Naruto. Danzo did the death of White Fang behind my back. These are all my negligence. What has Kakashi got to do with it? Seeing the critical situation, the third Hokage immediately took the responsibility on himself. Jiraiya also hurriedly echoed, Kakashi, your father passed away suddenly that year. No one expected it. The teacher was also sad for a long time because of this. You have to believe the teacher. After the third Hokage and Jiraiya's repeated persuasion, Kakashi's eyes recovered a little. However, Kawasaki knew that Kakashi would not be able to serve the third generation wholeheartedly in the future. Advertisement seeing that his goal had been achieved, Kawasaki snorted coldly and said, no point in talking. Kawasaki summoned a crow and was about to perform the reverse summoning technique. At this time, a gloomy voice floated over and said, Kawasaki, you'd better think about it. If you call Shisui back, there will be no turning back. Kawasaki glared and said, what do you mean? Before he finished speaking, he saw the ground in front of him rumbling and two coffins rising. The words, Chu, and were engraved on them respectively. How dare you summon them in Konoha? Kawasaki's face turned pale and he roared in disbelief. The action of calling back Shisui also came to an abrupt end. Kawasaki said to the third Hokage unhappily, third generation, you actually allowed Orochimaru to summon the dead? At this point, the third Hokage also said solemnly, this is the teacher's invention. In this case, even if the teacher is summoned, he will not blame me. Kawasaki looked at the two coffins with a wary look, his expression hesitant. All the people present combined were not as intimidating as the two coffins. The third Hokage and Jiraiya were waiting for Kawasaki to make a decision. Kakashi was already desperate, but when he heard the words, summon the dead, he seemed to suddenly think of something, and his eyes flickered. The atmosphere froze for a moment. Orochimaru saw Kawasaki hesitate and stepped forward to fan the flames. Kawasaki, there is no harm in handing over the formula to the daimyo. The land of fire is much larger than the small place of the land of fields. The profit in the land of fire can be 10 times that of the land of fields. Why bother so much? Kawasaki's eyes flickered, and he seemed to be shaken. But Kawasaki still snorted coldly and said to the third Hokage. No matter how much profit there is, it will eventually be divided up by Konoha, just like we Uchiha are obviously the founders of Konoha. Now you have no power and status, only endless suppression. Do you think I will still believe in you? Orochimaru winked at the third Hokage and exchanged glances with Jiraiya. The third Hokage said seriously, there are indeed many misunderstandings between Konoha and Uchiha, but these are all caused by Shimura Danzo. Although he escaped from prison and disappeared, we have found out everything he did. For the debt owed to Uchiha, Konoha will compensate. Chapter 164 Kawasaki's Experiment. Master the Power. What we need now is to sit down and negotiate, not to resolve it by force. Jiraiya also stepped forward to persuade. Kawasaki, I think we can talk it over. There is no need to fight for some interests and power. The third Hokage added, currently, Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi are fighting fiercely, and the war may spread at any time. Even if you don't consider yourself, you have to consider your Uchiha people. Now only Orochimaru's cloning technology can save Itachi and Fugaku's eyes. You don't want Itachi and Fugaku to be blind for life. The third generation's words made sense, and Kawasaki's expression eased slightly. The third generation was ready to add fuel to the fire. Due to the Nine Tails incident, the Uchiha clan was wronged, so Fugaku was appointed as the honorary elder. I know this is far from enough. The injustice suffered by the Uchiha over the years cannot be made up by an honorary elder. So I will grant the Uchiha clan another honorary elder position in the name of Hokage. In this way, the Uchiha will have great power in Konoha. Kawasaki, this is my greatest sincerity, the third generation said earnestly. Kawasaki thought for a moment, then he took a deep breath and slowly said. My formula was given to the daimyo, how should the benefits be distributed? When Kawasaki asked this question, the third generation and Jiraiya felt relieved. They understood that Kawasaki was no longer holding on to the past, which meant that he had compromised. The third generation winked at Jiraiya. Jiraiya then went out to contact Anbu. Kakashi stared at the two coffins, feeling mixed emotions. Orochimaru said hoarsely, the daimyo is responsible for the store, personnel and publicity, and the store is 50%. I will use a new method to sell quickly, and I will take 10%. You Uchiha will do nothing, and I will take 40%. The third generation was shocked. This was completely different from what the envoy said. But there was no abnormality on their faces. Kawasaki thought about it and seemed to accept this plan. What is the profit this month? Orochimaru smiled and said, because the factory in the daimyo has just started, there is a shortage of materials and insufficient production capacity. So your profit in the first month is 150 million. As he said, Orochimaru took out 4 boxes from the storage scroll. They were all large banknotes. Kawasaki nodded, looking quite satisfied. The third generation's mouth twitched, and they didn't say a word. Kawasaki stared at Orochimaru and said, can Itachi's eyes be cloned? Orochimaru confirmed, no problem, Itachi's eyes are still there. It will only take time to clone. However, only ordinary eyes are cloned, and it is unknown whether they can be opened. Kawasaki took a deep breath and said, okay, I know. Advertisement. Then he looked around and snorted coldly, Hokage, I want to see the appointment letter from the honorary elder before tomorrow. After that, he turned around and left. He didn't say goodbye to everyone. The third generation looked at Kawasaki's disappearing back. Only then did they breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they didn't fall out completely. Orochimaru, you are taking a risk. The third generation looked at the two coffins and knew who was inside. Orochimaru licked his lips and said, are you taking a risk? Then he put 2 fingers together. Bang bang, the coffin lid was opened. The third generation was shocked and was about to speak. But they found that the coffin was empty. Orochimaru, you. The third generation broke out in a cold sweat. Orochimaru actually cheated. Aren't you afraid that Kawasaki will turn against you completely? The third generation asked. Orochimaru chuckled. Don't we still have you? Even if we use impure world reincarnation on the spot, there is enough time. At this point, the third generation can't blame Orochimaru. The third generation saw that Orochimaru did not summon the first generation and the second generation casually, and they were satisfied in their hearts. I think Orochimaru still has a bottom line. The third generation wanted to say something to Kakashi. The blue barrier outside suddenly disappeared. Old man, you have to find me another laboratory. Orochimaru left a mess for the third generation and left on his own. Kakashi. After seeing Orochimaru leave, the third generation turned to Kakashi and said, don't take Kawasaki's words seriously. White Fang's death was indeed an accident. The third generation looked sincere, and it was obvious that they were sincere. Kakashi raised his eyes and whispered, I believe you, Hokage-sama. Kakashi said he trusted him, but the third generation could tell from his expression that Kakashi actually had a gap in his heart. Hokage-sama, my eyes will be ready soon, and I have to go find Orochimaru-sama. After saying that, he hurried to find Orochimaru without waiting for the third generation to respond. The third Hokage watched Kakashi's back and stared at him for a long time. Advertisement. Kakashi caught up with Orochimaru. Kakashi, you performed your mission well today. Orochimaru said as he led Kakashi to another temporary laboratory of his. Yes, it was Orochimaru who asked Kakashi to take Itachi as a hostage at a critical moment. Kakashi also did not want to see the conflict between the Uchiha clan and the village. Although it was not glorious to plot against Itachi, he still did it. Recalling the previous things, Inkashi was hesitant to speak. Orochimaru looked at Kakashi. Just say it. Kakashi calmed down and asked, Lord Orochimaru, is there really a ninjutsu that can summon the dead? Orochimaru replied, the second Hokage has developed a forbidden technique called impure world reincarnation. It can call the souls of deceased ninjas back to the world and reborn in physical form. Kakashi's heartstrings moved and he said, then, what are the conditions? Orochimaru snorted and said, I advise you not to use this technique. Impure world reincarnation is listed as a forbidden technique. Because it requires part of the body of the deceased in a living life to perform it. Kakashi couldn't hide the loss on his face and swallowed the words that came to his lips. I know what you were thinking. Your father's death was caused by Danzo, and the old guy is indeed suspected of covering up. However, he probably didn't expect your father to choose to end his life directly. Kakashi looked at Orochimaru, his eyes full of gloom. Orochimaru licked his lips and said, whether it is today's matter or your father's matter, you need to have enough power and status to intervene. Look at Kawasaki, he has both strength and power, so the old guy has to take a step back. Lead a how? And you, even if Danzo stands in front of you, you are powerless to take his life. If you can have the strength of Kawasaki, the old guy will probably tie Danzo up and come to apologize to you. With your talent, if you keep practicing, it is only a matter of time before you surpass White Fang. But what have you done all these years? Orochimaru shook his head and was obviously disappointed with Kakashi. It's a pity, Kakashi, you still can't understand. In this world, strength is the key to success, after listening to Orochimaru's words. Kakashi's eyes gradually became firm. 7. In Kamui's space. Countless stone platforms extend endlessly, you can't find their end. And somewhere, a stone platform was swallowed by some mysterious power, like a bite of chocolate. Obito has been lying on the stone platform next to the gap for a long time. He stood up woodenly, looking at the Sharingan in his hand that had lost its light, and his heart was numb. Chapter 165 Quan, Mangekyō Transplant, Kawasaki-sama. If he hadn't kept a Sharingan in his hand while testing Danzo, he would have lost his eye. Without his own Mangekyō Sharingan, how could the plan be completed? But the problem is that even if he has 2 Sharingans and can perform Susanoo, he still can't beat Kawasaki. Obito guessed that Kawasaki's eyes were not ordinary Mangekyō Sharingan. It might even be the eternal Mangekyō Sharingan. Although Obito is in the same class as Kawasaki, his heart is full of Lin. He knows nothing about Kawasaki's family affairs. He has no idea whether he has any relatives alive. But from Kawasaki's action of pretending to bleed from his eyes, Kawasaki has been covering up and hiding his true experience. He obviously has great power, but he has been hiding it. He always shows weakness to the enemy and never reveals all his cards. Kawasaki once said, Space-time Mangekyō has appeared many times in Uchiha history. Although Obito did not comment on this, one thing is certain. Kawasaki knows his Kamui very well, he even knows the ability of his Susanoo. Theoretically, before taking back his left eye, Obito did not know what the ability of his Susanoo was. But Kawasaki knew it very well. He directly detonated the Kamui Kunai in advance, and the Kamui Kunai that could not hit anyone became useless. After Obito had 2 Kamui, he was full of confidence, but he was completely defeated in the second battle. Obito was defeated miserably in intelligence, and he himself did not even know how he died in the Kamui space. He had obviously changed his position, but he was still locked by Kawasaki's aim no Kume. This is incredible. Obito can only speculate the ability of Kawasaki's other Sharingan. It is not to extend the use time of Susanoo, but to be able to locate his ability in another space. Thus, Kawasaki's pupil power has not declined over the years, and his deliberate concealment points to the most unlikely answer. Kawasaki has the eternal Mangekyō Sharingan. Although he is reluctant to admit it, it is the fact. If this is true, Kawasaki's mind is deeper than expected. He already has the eternal Mangekyō Sharingan, but he still hides it. Kawasaki is so powerful, but he acts so low-key, thinking that he is eager to take revenge just because he has collected 2 Kamui. Obito feels stupid. This battle also made him see his arrogance, and the arrogant mentality of having 2 Kamui in one was completely shattered. Kawasaki, such a strong man, still seeks allies, while he is still fighting alone after his identity is exposed. Only by having his own team can he deal with all variables. Obito reflected for a long time in the Kamui space. Finally, he looked at the blind Sharingan in his hand. His eyes gradually calmed down. Saif, Uchiha Settlement. Itachi woke up soon after being brought back to the room by Kawasaki. Itachi, how do you feel? Kawasaki asked beside the bed. Advertisement. Itachi shook his head and said, Senior, I'm fine. Kakashi just knocked me out. Thank you for your hard work. Kawasaki comforted him. After all, it was not his fault. How could Itachi be knocked unconscious by a sneak attack? Itachi just pretended not to see, not really blind. Itachi didn't say much, but asked, "Senior, what are your plans next?" Kawasaki thought for a while, and the layout of the water country was almost in the final stage. In order to appease the Uchiha's dissatisfaction, Konoha proposed the position of honorary elder. Today's Uchiha enjoys more power than other Konoha families. Currently, only the Hyuga clan has 2 honorary elders. Now there is the Uchiha clan. Kawasaki understood that this was a stopgap measure of the third Hokage, and he would make a decision after the battle between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi. But he also decided to take advantage of the situation and do something while the Uchiha had 2 honorary elders. At this time, the Uchiha was quite wealthy. It was the time to win over the major ninja clans and exert public pressure on the third generation. But the first thing was to make the Uchiha better, integrate into the big family of Konoha. Thinking of this, Kawasaki felt that the time was right. He said to Itachi, "Do you know why I let you consume your eye power?" Itachi opened his blurry eyes and shook his head gently. "Although I don't know the reason, the senior must have a deep meaning," Itachi said firmly. "Over the years, the clan has become increasingly prosperous, and the Uchiha family has increased in population. Its influence is enough to affect the war situation, and the biggest contributor to all this is Kawasaki. Therefore, Itachi has great trust in Kawasaki. Kawasaki let him use the power of the eye technique to his heart's content, and he used it without reservation. Even though he knew his eyesight would deteriorate, he never hesitated for a moment. At this moment, Kawasaki revealed to him, "You have experienced the side effects of our Uchiha clan's Mangekyō Sharingan many times, so I won't say more. Today I will tell you 2 ways to avoid the side effects of Mangekyō. First, transplant the cells of first Hokage Hashirama to repair the damaged Sharingan. If you use Mangekyō appropriately, the problem of vision loss will no longer exist." Seeing Itachi listening quietly and calmly, Kawasaki nodded slightly. Such a mentality is rare. Another way is to use the blood relative's Mangekyō for transplantation, fuse the eye power, and create the eternal Mangekyō Sharingan that will never go blind. Advertisement. Itachi's expression changed slightly and said, "What about father?" Kawasaki smiled and said, "Fugaku has already planned to leave the eyes to you." Itachi frowned and asked, "If the eyes are given to me, what will father do?" "You can clone a pair of eyes for him or transplant someone else's eyes. The former may be difficult to open the pupil power and can only be used as a normal eye. The latter may have a rejection reaction and the service life is unknown. But this can make Fugaku regain his sight," Kawasaki said with emotion. "Fugaku firmly believes that your future achievements will surpass him, so he decided to leave the eyes to you, hoping that you can make greater contributions to the clan." Itachi shook his head and said, "I think Sasuke is equally talented, if he awakens Mangekyō Sharingan." Kawasaki interrupted Itachi and said, "Not if, Sasuke will definitely open Mangekyō Sharingan. Don't think about giving your eyes to Sasuke, or giving yours to Sasuke. I have other arrangements for Sasuke." Itachi is not a hesitant person. Hearing this, he nodded and said, "Then follow the senior's wishes." Just when Kawasaki was talking to Itachi, "Itachi, are you there?" a voice came. Kawasaki turned around, only to see Izumi standing outside the door, not stepping in. Perhaps she did not expect Kawasaki to be here. Izumi blushed and said, "Kawasaki, Lord Kawasaki, you are here too." Kawasaki was very satisfied with Izumi's address. "This little girl is really obedient. Come in." Kawasaki invited Izumi in. Although Kawasaki's presence made Izumi a little restrained. But when she saw Itachi on the bed, she couldn't help but show her concern. "Itachi, how are you?" Itachi didn't smile, but looked at Izumi with tenderness and said, "It's just a little injury, why are you here?" Izumi shook her head and said, "I heard that you were blind in the snack street and Orochimaru treated you." Itachi turned to Kawasaki, and Kawasaki laughed. Unexpectedly, as soon as he compromised, the third Hokage began to build public opinion. After all, Orochimaru is now a Konoha man, if Itachi asks him to treat his eyes. It will be a signal that the Uchiha and Konoha are reconciling. The third generation undoubtedly does not want to conflict with the Uchiha at this time. Coincidentally, Kawasaki also has no such intention. Chapter 166 Honorary Elder, the third generation's purpose. Itachi's eyes do have problems, but it's okay. I have my own way. Don't pay attention to the rumors from the outside world. Compared to the rumors outside, Quan naturally believed the clan leader more. So Quan immediately felt relieved, but Kawasaki's next words made Quan's heart tighten again. "Quan, go home and tell Aunt Yu that we will be a guest 3 nights later." Quan was so scared that she stood up from the bed. Of course she understood what the clan leader meant. It was because of this that she became more flustered. Blushing, she twisted her fingers and glanced down at Itachi, who was puzzled. Itachi is injured now, and there is no need to rush this matter. Her voice was very low, and it was almost impossible to hear it if Kawasaki hadn't approached. Kawasaki saw Quan's shy look and found it interesting and said, "Just leave like this, you let Aunt Yu prepare." Izumi pursed her lips, as if she had accepted her fate and said, "Then, I understand, I'll go back first." Izumi turned around and met Itachi's eyes. After shyness, sweetness came to her heart. She then smiled sweetly at Itachi and said, "Waiting for you, Itachi." Then, she walked out of the room lightly. At this moment, Itachi was confused. "Senior, why do you want to go to Izumi's house?" Kawasaki shook his head and said without beating around the bush, "Of course it's to confirm your marriage with Izumi." "Hey, this, it's hard to imagine that the calm Itachi would stutter." Kawasaki said with a stern look, "When you left Konoha, Izumi followed you through the hardships without hesitation. You won't agree if you don't settle the marriage?" Yeah. Itachi gradually calmed down after the initial panic. Thinking of all these years, Izumi has always been by his side, cooking for him, preparing ninja tools, and planning tasks for him. Itachi also felt sweet in his heart. Recalling the past, in the future scene shown by Kawasaki, he deliberately killed Hara because of the pursuit of so-called peace. Itachi cherished the existence of Izumi more and more. "I understand." Itachi's face was solemn. After thinking through some things, he felt that happiness was hard-won. Just when Kawasaki was about to tell Itachi again, Sasuke rushed in again. Seeing Kawasaki present, he hurriedly saluted Kawasaki. "Advertisement, master, you are here too. Why did the news that my brother went to Orochimaru to treat his eyes spread everywhere?" Although Sasuke was young, he also felt vaguely that something was wrong. Kawasaki waved his hand and said, "It's okay, this is the truth, you can talk to Itachi first." After that, Kawasaki walked towards Uchiha Hospital. Since this matter has been widely known, Tsunade should have received the news. He had to explain to Tsunade, entering the hospital, holding a formal photo. Seeing Kawasaki coming, Tsunade put the photo aside. Kawasaki glanced at it and saw that it was a photo of Tsunade and Kato Dan. Kato Dan in the photo had a gentle smile, and Tsunade had a ponytail and was leaning on him happily. Kato Dan was Tsunade's first love, and unfortunately passed away in the Second Shinobi World War. His tragedy was not that he died at the hands of his enemies, but that he fell into the conspiracy of his colleagues. However, he was also lucky, as Tsunade had remained loyal to him for more than 20 years. In Kawasaki's opinion, Kato Dan was the only good match for Tsunade. Jiraiya's final gamble with Tsunade, at that time, the feelings between the two were far from being summarized by love, and were mixed with too many other things. Even if he returned safely, they might not be able to become a couple. Tsunade's lifelong love was only Duan, not Jiraiya. Kawasaki was full of thoughts and was silent for a while. Tsunade saw Kawasaki staring at the photo, and didn't understand what he meant. According to Kawasaki's age, Kato Dan died when Kawasaki was just born, so the two should have no intersection. "I was just looking for you, what happened in Konoha?" Tsunade asked. Tsunade has the habit of going to the casino every day, so it's easy for the third Hokage to find her. She was very disappointed with the third generation's handling of Danzō a long time ago, so she didn't want to see the third Hokage at all. Therefore, even if the third generation sent someone to deliver a message, Tsunade would just glance at it casually and not be interested. But the third generation has been trying to repair the relationship between him and Tsunade. So this matter of delivering letters has never stopped. Today, Tsunade was planning to play a few hands, and Anbu sent another letter. It was said that today the third Hokage arranged another honorary elder position for the Uchiha clan, and invited Orochimaru to help treat Itachi and Fugaku's eyes. Anbu even brought the honorary elder's appointment letter to Tsunade, asking her to take it to Kawasaki. Tsunade was no longer in the mood to gamble, and just wanted to know what happened. When she returned to the village and heard that Kawasaki went to Itachi, she waited in the hospital first, preparing to meet him later. "I was tricked by Orochimaru." Kawasaki sighed and told Tsunade roughly what happened. "So, the old man used the title of honorary elder to win you over?" Tsunade was a little confused. The position of honorary elder is not big, but it is not small either. But the honorary elder can only give opinions, and there are advisory elders and Hokage above him. Advertisement for the Uchiha clan, which has already established its own clan. They neither rely on Konoha for food nor expect to develop in Konoha. "Please give me flowers." The position of honorary elder is like a chicken rib that is tasteless and a pity to throw away. It is of no great use. Kawasaki chuckled. This thing may be really useless in the hands of others. But he has a way to make it valuable. However, he did not rush to answer Tsunade's question. Instead, he said, "Tsunade, if Uchiha and Konoha are in conflict one day, which side will you stand on?" Tsunade's heart skipped a beat and stared at Kawasaki with a serious expression. Seeing that Kawasaki's face was calm, he patiently waited for his answer. Tsunade then began to think seriously. Her eyes swept across the photo, remembering the lover who wanted to become Hokage but unfortunately died young. Thinking of Nawaki, who was younger but also died. 0. I will never let anyone destroy Konoha. Tsunade's words were powerful. Konoha carried the hard work of her two grandfathers, and she would never allow it to be destroyed. Kawasaki's face remained calm. He asked, "What if Konoha wants to destroy Uchiha?" Tsunade looked around and thought of the prejudice of the villagers against Uchiha. He also thought of Kawasaki's character and Naruto's carefree smile. She shook her head firmly and said, "I will never let Konoha destroy Uchiha." Kawasaki lowered his eyes slightly and said, I understand. Tsunade frowned and said, Kawasaki, if you have any plans, you can tell me. Konoha and Uchiha will both lose, which is not a good result. Kawasaki looked up and smiled and said, Lord Tsunade, do you think I can be the 5th Hokage? Tsunade was so surprised that he couldn't close his mouth. Kawasaki never showed any interest in the Hokage throne. The sun rose from the west today? Do you really want to be Hokage? Tsunade asked doubtfully. Kawasaki laughed and said, How is it possible? What's so good about being a Hokage? Kawasaki continued after changing the subject. The 3rd Hokage has been in that position for too long, and his thinking has long been rigid. His prejudice against Uchiha is deeply rooted. Unless you become Hokage, the conflict between Konoha and Uchiha will be unsolvable. Tsunade has been confused by Kawasaki's wild ideas. It is hard to tell which of his words are true and which are false. Have no choice but to say, Kawasaki, what do you want to do? I am not interested in the position of Hokage. However, as long as you don't plan to fight Konoha head-on, I don't care if you want to run for Hokage. Chapter 167 Terumi Mei. Lava Style. Dissolving Monsters. Kawasaki shrugged and said, Don't worry, I promise not to let Uchiha and Konoha conflict. But you have to be mentally prepared, your teacher may not be as kind as he seems. Kawasaki said halfway, which was a preemptive shot for future means. Tsunade was silent for a moment, waved his hand tiredly and said, I know. Kawasaki said nothing more, waved and left the hospital. On the battlefield of the Land of Water, since the last time 8 Tails Killer Bee fired a tailed beast bomb, Kirigakure restrained the idea of a strong attack and turned to continuous trial attacks with small-scale troops. But 8 Tails Killer Bee never showed up again. Terumi Mei judged that 8 Tails Killer Bee's injuries should not have healed completely, otherwise it would not have only fired a tailed beast bomb once and did not fight. This time Terumi Mei was determined to launch a night raid. Tonight, we must, 870, to wipe out Cloud Shinobi's base. So, Terumi Mei led Kirigakure's 30 top masters, plus Kisame and other partners, and marched towards Cloud Shinobi's base. Everyone, watch your feet, Shing reminded softly. There's a 7 treasure talisman mechanism about 10 steps ahead. The trigger method is to step on the line to start. As he said, Shing led the team to take a detour from the side, and left 2 team members to dismantle the mechanism before catching up, so as not to cause trouble for their own people on the way back. Relying on Shing's Byakugan skill, plus the help of several other sensing ninjas, Terumi Mei and the others turned left and right, and finally passed through an area full of 7 treasure talisman traps. Mizukage-sama, it feels wrong. I didn't see a shadow of Cloud Shinobi along the way. Hoshigaki Kisame said with his big baby Samahata on his back, frowning. Kisame has been having a blast these past 2 days. He is already an elite Jonin, and with Samahata in hand. We don't have much time left, so we have to find out today anyway. In the past 2 days, Hoshigaki Kisame, Biwajuzo, and Zabuza have earned a lot of face for Kirigakure and made great contributions. This made Terumi Mei very happy, and she was secretly grateful to the old senior Feipu for sending back some capable people to Sonoin. Among the 3, the most powerful one is Hoshigaki Kisame, holding the Sagahata in his hand, with full chakra. When he makes a move, it is often a large-scale water-style technique, and he always rushes to the front to take the lead. With the help of Samahata, ordinary ninjutsu basically poses no threat to him. If we talk about the most kills, it must be Kisame. Unfortunately, Hoshigaki Kisame is no longer a member of Kirigakure, and from his attitude, he seems to have no intention of returning to Maien. Terumi Mei can only think about finding another way later. Today, Cloud Shinobi's behavior is indeed a bit strange, but according to the intelligence at sea, it will take some time for Cloud Shinobi's main force to arrive here. Terumi Mei made up her mind to get rid of or capture at least 1-tailed beast Jinchuriki tonight. Otherwise, Kirigakure will be in great danger. We can't put all our treasures on the boss of Akatsuki. Several people quickly arrived at the camp established by Cloud Shinobi. Advertisement Shing rolled his eyes and looked inside. Mizukage-sama, there is no one inside, and the members of Cloud Shinobi are not here. Terumi Mei's eyebrows twisted into a ball and said, Shing, check if there are any traces of Cloud Shinobi on the beach. Got it. Shing used his Byakugan with all his strength, and his chakra was consumed quickly. He kept moving his observation distance further, and finally, he found Cloud Shinobi's troops near the beach. Mizukage-sama, found it, Cloud Shinobi's troops are all on the beach. Terumi Mei frowned and waved her hand suddenly, everyone, move. The target was Cloud Shinobi on the beach, the coast. Cloud Shinobi's troops were stationed here. Originally, Cloud Shinobi had a team of more than 200 people. Over the past 2 days, more than 30 people have been killed under the fierce attack of Mist Shinobi. Later, Cloud Shinobi adopted guerrilla tactics and used various traps to delay Mist Shinobi's attack. The daily losses were reduced a little. They chose to station at the beach because there were many wounded in Cloud Shinobi. If the base is discovered by Mist Shinobi at this time, the casualties of Cloud Shinobi will be extremely heavy. Therefore, after Wooden Golem and Killer Bee discussed, the day before, they began to transfer personnel to the seaside. Even the boats were docked at the seaside. If the situation is critical, they can evacuate immediately. After all, no one expected that the two Jinchuriki would be so seriously injured. Now that the curse power in Wooden Golem's body is gradually weakening, with the powerful recovery of the tailed beast. Wooden Golem can barely fight in the state of half-tailed beast. But it can't last too long. Killer Bee forced the tailed beast to launch the tailed beast bomb 2 days ago, causing the wound to open again. Now he can only stay in bed again. There is another reason for them to come here. Raikage will land from here. The battlefield of the water country. The Cloud Shinobi are waiting for the opportunity. Suddenly, they found themselves surrounded by thick fog. She immediately warned. It's Mist Shinobi technique. Be alert. Advertisement. All Cloud Shinobi quickly drew their weapons. The two input chakra into the generator. After the generator started, the huge fan next to it, which was taller than a person's head, hummed. The fan blades turned faster and faster, and the resulting strong wind blew directly into the thick fog. The originally spreading fog was blown away in an instant. The strong wind continued, the thick fog dissipated, and the figure of Mist Shinobi was soon exposed in the moonlight. Zai's heart sank. The woman opposite. It should be Mizukage without a doubt. Even Mizukage went into battle personally. Tonight is probably going to be hard. Everyone be careful. The woman opposite may be Mizukage. Everyone in the Samui team was secretly nervous. Cloud Shinobi is currently in poor condition, and I don't know how strong this newly appointed Mizukage is. Can Cloud Shinobi resist? Over there, seeing that Mist Shinobi technique was not effective, Mist Shinobi immediately switched to a strong attack. Mizukage Terumi Mei was the first to bear the brunt, with Zabuza and Biwajuzo on the left, and Kisame and Ao on the right. Terumi Mei opened her mouth and a wide range of water style appeared. Water style water ray pillar, puff, Terumi Mei gathered chakra. She drew a large amount of water from the nearby sea and condensed it into a huge 2.5-sized water ball that fell from the sky. The water ball was huge and exploded in midair. Although it was not fatal, all Cloud Shinobi were soaked. Terumi Mei's move was intended to prevent Cloud Shinobi from using lightning style freely. The conductivity of seawater is even stronger than that of ordinary water. Terumi Mei changed several gestures. A huge water dragon directly emerged from the ocean on one side. Water style water dragon bomb. A huge water dragon rushed out of the water and swept into the Cloud Shinobi. The Cloud Shinobi were thrown to the ground in an instant. But the water dragon had a large range, and Terumi Mei's control was not precise enough. The water dragon did not wreak havoc in the crowd for long. It was shattered by the half-tailed beast Wooden Golem and turned into countless seawater. The Cloud Shinobi dodged and retreated. They were soaked and prepared to engage in close combat with Mist Shinobi. At this time, Terumi Mei showed her special skills. She flew into the air and said with her mouth, lava-style dissolving monster technique. Chapter 168 Kisame. Mist Shinobi technique. Raikage. Poof. Countless corrosive mucus spurted out of Terumi Mei's mouth. The target was directly aimed at the center of the Cloud Shinobi team. The Cloud Shinobi hurriedly dodged, and a large amount of corrosive liquid fell on the beach. Two Cloud Shinobi were unable to dodge and were hit by the dissolving technique and screamed heartbreakingly. "Oh! My leg! It hurts! My hand!" The Cloud Shinobi, who were severely injured by the liquid, had their hands and feet corroded quickly to the bone. Omoi and Kalui were in the back. At this time, they swung their knives and chopped off one hand and one foot, removing the corroded part and saving the lives of the two. But the bloody wounds and corroded stumps, it greatly dampened the morale of the Cloud Shinobi. Terumi Mei took another breath and the acid gushed out of her mouth again. The Cloud Shinobi fled everywhere, and the team became chaotic. Biwa Juzo and Zabuza have already rushed into the battlefield and started fighting with Cloud Shinobi. Both Mist Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi are good at body bed. As soon as the hand-to-hand combat begins, the smell of blood immediately fills the air. Every knife hits the flesh, and blood splashes everywhere. Soon, the entire beach is dyed red. And Shing and Kisame did not join the melee, and Kisame carefully guarded beside Mizukage. Although Mizukage's bloodline limit is powerful, Terumi Mei is a typical 28 jutsu-type ninja. With someone to protect him, he can exert greater power. As for Chojuro, although he is called Mizukage's guard, Terumi Mei arranged him in the back. Terumi Mei believes that with Chojuro's current strength, he is not suitable for the battlefield. Shing has the Byakugan, which can prevent Shisui Ying from being attacked to the greatest extent. As soon as Terumi Mei arrived, she cast a large-scale water style and 2 bloodline limits in succession, and needed to recover for a while. As everyone rushed forward, Shing was worried that the defense around Terumi Mei was a little thin. But unexpectedly, Kisame did not rush forward, but stayed by Terumi Mei with extreme caution. Whoosh, a violent whistle by Wooden Golem passed through the crowd. Terumi Mei Chinese medicine. She understood that the key to this battle was Terumi Mei. As long as Terumi Mei was solved or delayed, Cloud Shinobi would have a chance to turn the tables. Unfortunately, her half-tailed beast transformation speed was not fast enough, at least not faster than Kisame's reaction. Kisame stretched out his arm, his muscles bulged, and his shin muscles swung out like a giant stick. By Wooden Golem leapt into the air. Unexpectedly, The barbs on the shin muscles suddenly exploded. Crack. By wooden golem's clothes on his arm were torn to pieces, and blood was dripping. She curled up like a cat in the air, so she was not hurt by the other barbs. She retreated violently from the wooden golem. But Kisame did not chase her, and quickly returned to Terumi Mei after knocking the wooden golem away. Terumi Mei took a breath, and then her mouth swelled up, and corrosive liquid sprayed like a cannonball. The affected Cloud Shinobi screamed and fell to the ground. Advertisement Killer B, who was waiting to be transferred on the stretcher in the back, endured the severe pain and wanted to stand up and fight. But the last time he forced the tailed beast bomb, it caused him great damage. He groaned and lay down again. The bandage on his body was oozing blood again. She kept rescuing the wounded on the field. Seeing Killer B bleeding, he couldn't help but persuade him, "Killer B, please calm down, this will only make your injuries worse." Killer B gasped and couldn't say a word because of the pain. The wooden puppets in front of them could not break through Hoshigaki Kisame's defenses and could not attack Mizukage Terumi Mei. Terumi Mei continued to spray acid, and with just a few hits, Cloud Shinobi Village lost more than 20 lives. The battle situation was already very urgent for Cloud Shinobi Village. At this critical moment, a rumbling sound suddenly sounded on the sea. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound, and their attention was attracted by the sea. I saw a figure, like a bulldozer, stepping on the accelerator on the sea and rushing towards this side. The man had dark skin, light yellow hair, and thick armor on his sturdy arms. There were green, shuriken, patterns on his shoulders. His body was glowing with blue light, carrying electricity, and his hair stood up, rushing over as fast as blue lightning. It seemed that they were about to reach the battlefield. The people of Cloud Shinobi Village immediately burst into cheers. Morale was boosted, because their strongest warrior had arrived. Fourth Raikage, he's here. Raikage is already close to the coastline, and he can see that Cloud Shinobi Village is in a bad situation. He stepped heavily on the water, and the surface of the water sank a little like a sponge. With a loud bang, the surface of the water bounced violently. Raikage's tank-like body, coupled with lightning speed, approached Terumi Mei in an instant. Raikage gathered lightning-style chakra in his elbow and smashed it hard at Terumi Mei. Hoshigaki Kisame, who had been swimming beside Terumi Mei, raised Samahada and blocked it right next to Terumi Mei. Bang! Samahada bounced back and hit Kisame as if it was hit by a cannonball. Kisame was also hit by this force and hit Terumi Mei. The two flew out together. Water style, water barrier. Ching next to him only then completed the seal. A wall of water suddenly sprang out from the ground. Although he failed to block the Raikage's first attack, he successfully blocked the subsequent attacks. Pippa Zhang hurriedly left the enemy in front of him and rushed to support Terumi Mei. Zabuza aimed at the large fan in the distance, turned his feet, twisted his waist, moved his shoulders, and swung his arms. With the power of rotation, the sword in his hand flew out. The sword whistled and hit the fan directly. Crack, bang, bang, bang. Advertisement: the blades of the fan were all cut off. And Zabuza's fake beheading sword was also smashed to pieces. Seeing the fan destroyed, Zabuza ran back while making hand seals. On the other side, Terumi Mei and Hoshigaki Kisame climbed up. Terumi Mei was actually not injured. He just fell a little embarrassed. Hoshigaki Kisame was in a terrible situation. When the sacral muscle bounced back, it directly collapsed his chest. Kisame got up and spat out a large mouthful of blood and fragments of his internal organs. If someone else had been injured this badly, they would have died long ago. Fortunately, Kisame had Samahada in his hand, and the chakra that he had just sucked from the wooden doll was continuously injected into his body. Kisame's injuries recovered quickly. At this moment, the second wave of Raikage's attack came like a bulldozer. He had bypassed Ching's water barrier. The movie roared, "Just stay here." Lateral bolt of pain. 927 with the sound of electric current, the hand knife with blue light chopped down. Kisame had not fully recovered yet, and could only barely lift Samahada. Fortunately, Biwa Juzo arrived in time. He used the beheading sword to block Samahada. Clang. There was a crisp sound. The beheading sword broke, and the front half of the blade flew out in a spin. Then the hand knife chopped on the S******** muscle. Although the beheading sword cushioned his attack, the knife still made Kisame slide a few meters away when it hit Samahada. At this time, Terumi Mei had already sprayed a large amount of corrosive acid from her mouth. Target: Cloud Shinobi Village. Terumi Mei's acid sprayed straight into the sky and exploded. The people of Cloud Shinobi Village were all below. Zabuza also completed the seal on the other side. Mist Shinobi technique. A large area of mist began to spread. The Raikage could no longer chase Terumi Mei, but teleported back to the people of Cloud Shinobi Village. He kicked out and slammed the ground hard. The sand on the beach flew in all directions. Hissing. The acid hit the sand, making a hissing sound. The people of Cloud Shinobi Village took the opportunity to dodge. Kisame coughed up blood and said to Terumi Mei, "Master Mizukage, retreat. We are no match for the Raikage." Zabuza's Mist Shinobi technique began to spread. Terumi Mei glared at Cloud Shinobi Village, knowing that it was over. Water style, follow the bed. She also blew out thick mist from her mouth, and other mist shinobi followed suit. Hide your body. Chapter 169 Terumi Mei, Bloodline Limit, Ibiki. Retreat. Terumi Mei gave an order, and all mist shinobi began to retreat. Zabuza also took the opportunity to evacuate. In the thick fog, the enemy was difficult to identify, and Cloud Shinobi Village suffered heavy casualties. Ying did not dare to chase, looking at the miserable state of the people of Cloud Shinobi Village on the beach. Ying unwillingly grabbed a stone from the ground. Roaring, "Go to hell!" Following the route of Terumi Mei's retreat, he threw it hard. The huge stone, with a force of thousands of pounds, instantly penetrated into the thick fog. All the mist shinobi were retreating. Zabuza happened to be behind Terumi Mei and saw the stone flying. Zabuza did not have time to cast a spell, and subconsciously protected Terumi Mei behind him. Crack! The sound of gravel flying and bones breaking sounded at the same time. Zabuza broke several ribs directly, blood spurted out, and fell on his back. Terumi Mei didn't react at all when the stone flew out of the mist. Until Zabuza blocked it for her, she realized that she had brushed past the Shinigami. Zabuza! Terumi Mei screamed. She and Biwajuzo quickly leaned over and supported Zabuza on both sides to continue retreating into the mist. Fortunately, Raikage's physical strength was not as good as before after a series of attacks, and the previous heavy blows also greatly reduced his strength. After throwing the stone, Raikage couldn't find another suitable stone for a while, so he had to give up. Putting away lightning-style chakra mode, Raikage also felt tired. Everyone, rest and treat the wounded. Raikage gave an order, and the people of Cloud Shinobi Village responded. Yes, Raikage is the strongest person in Cloud Shinobi Village and their biggest support. So when Raikage appeared, the people of Cloud Shinobi Village felt at ease. Raikage searched for a long time and finally found Killer Bee lying on a stretcher. Advertisement, K. Big brother, you are here, hiss. Killer Bee was about to rap, but the pain on his body made him speechless. Ying Ying looked at his usually careless brother, who was now lying here with injuries all over his body. He stretched out his big palm and patted Killer Bee's shoulder and said, "You rest and recover first. Big brother is here, I will take care of the matter." Killer Bee stretched out his hand, and he stretched out his fist. The two fists touched each other. Mist Shinobi on the other side, after retreating a distance, finally breathed a sigh of relief. Quickly put Zabuza down. Zabuza was still conscious at this time. He took 2 breaths and knew that his ribs were broken. Fortunately, this injury was not fatal. Mizukage-sama, it's not safe here. Let's go back first. My injury is fine. Zabuza didn't want to drag down the team because of his injury. Ching next to him still had a lot of chakra. He was using his Byakugan to monitor the distance and comforted him. Don't worry, Zabuza. The people from the hidden village didn't catch up. Your injury needs to be treated immediately, otherwise it will be dangerous if your internal organs are injured. Mist Shinobi team brought 2 medical ninjas. The 2 medical ninjas basically did not participate in the battle and immediately rushed to give Zabuza emergency treatment. Cloud Shinobi started cleaning up the battlefield. When Terumi Mei sprayed acid just now, the entire Cloud Shinobi people were desperately looking for shelter. After all, once they were splashed with acid, they would suffer a tragic end in an instant. Therefore, they would hide wherever there was a place to hide. Those Cloud Shinobi ninjas close to the sea simply jumped into the water to save themselves. But not everyone returned to the ground smoothly. There are also cases where some people failed to surface again. It's just that no one knows this, while Zabuza was receiving treatment. Terumi Mei took account of the people. Although everyone was injured, the casualties of Mist Shinobi were not too great. The statistics showed that Mist Shinobi only lost 3 people, and all the people killed had been evacuated. On the other hand, Cloud Shinobi had at least 50 casualties because the Raikage did not arrive at the beginning. This is already a very good result. However, Terumi Mei could not laugh. After this battle with the Raikage, she realized how powerful the Raikage was. In front of the Raikage, she had almost no power to fight back. The Raikage could break through her defense in an instant. If it weren't for several people working together to rescue Terumi Mei today, she would probably have died at the hands of the Raikage. If it were her guards, such as Chojuro, they would probably have died here immediately. Moreover, Raikage came on the waves, obviously a long-distance attack. Even though he consumed a lot of physical strength, Raikage could still make Terumi Mei defenseless. Terumi Mei knew in her heart the gap between her and the top combat power. Her own bloodline limit, at such a moment, can only be used to bully opponents weaker than herself. Facing an enemy moving at high speed like Raikage, Terumi Mei was helpless. Her other bloodline boil style requires a more closed environment to work quickly. In a place like the seaside, it can't be used at all. Raikage is not only fast, but also has strong attack power. Terumi Mei can't resist any attack from Raikage. Even if it was the last stone thrown by Raikage, if Zabuza didn't help to block it, she would have been injured. Terumi Mei looked back in the direction of Cloud Shinobi and sighed. Advertisement. She knew that the missed opportunity today meant that Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi were about to enter a tug-of-war stage. Mist Shinobi lacks Jinchuriki, and Terumi Mei is full of worries. After informing Kisame of the mission to retrieve Yugo, although Gujou said that the Akatsuki Organization can accept this mission. But there is no extra time now, we have to wait until their leader arrives and end this war first. Terumi Mei doesn't know how strong the leader of the organization is, so much so that even Hoshigaki Kisame praises him. But under the current situation, she can only hope that the leader of the Akatsuki Organization can be stronger. Zabuza, who was lying on the ground, received emergency treatment, and his head was finally fixed. There is no danger of internal organ damage in the short term. He came to Terumi Mei and suggested, Mizukage-sama, Cloud Shinobi may take a break for a while. We can take this opportunity to blow up their base. Terumi Mei's eyes lit up. Blowing up Cloud Shinobi's base now can make Cloud Shinobi's rest and recuperation slower. Terumi Mei said to Ching, Ching, did you get some secret treasure talismans when you dismantled Cloud Shinobi's traps before? Ching immediately understood and quickly ordered, Ryosuke, Kato, the two of you go to Cloud Shinobi's base. Use all the secret treasure talismans you have collected. Then retreat immediately. The two Mist Shinobi warriors quickly agreed and rushed towards the Cloud Shinobi base. This place is not safe. Most of the other Mist Shinobi members are injured. After Zabuza treated them urgently, everyone began to retreat. On the way, a huge explosion was heard from the direction of the Cloud Shinobi base. Not all spies noticed the Mist Shinobi's sneak attack. But once the two sides, Wang Dejiao, fought, more people knew about it. At least the Ibiki team was watching the battle through a telescope from a distance. Ibiki has visited the Water Kingdom many times and is familiar with the environment here. In comparison, he discovered that Cloud Shinobi had evacuated the base earlier than other forces. Although he didn't know that Mist Shinobi would launch a sneak attack tonight, he knew that Mist Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi will inevitably clash. Therefore, he has been hiding in the high ground far away, observing with a telescope, hoping to obtain useful information. Since the two sides started fighting, Ibiki has been watching the battle from a distance. Cloud Shinobi has many wounded and no search team has been sent out. Ibiki and others are relatively safe. Mist Shinobi 5th Mizukage directly revealed the bloodline limit, and this kind of information is extremely important. Ibiki recorded it and prepared to convey it to two. Later, the Reikage landed on the island earlier than the follow-up troops of Cloud Shinobi, which surprised Ibiki. In this way, the two Jinchuriki of Cloud Shinobi should be safe. Ibiki hurriedly wrote the information on the scroll. With the help of Summoning Beast, the information was sent back to Konoha. Chapter 170 The Mystery of Hidan's Immortality, Lord Kawasaki. Uchiha Territory. DF. 04. Accompanied by the crow's cries. Reverse summoning technique. Iori slapped the barrier with one palm. Bang! Shisui's figure appeared on the summoning platform. Shisui instantly went down, where Kawasaki was waiting for him. Senior, I'm back. Now the four great Daos are just pretending, Yaoyue can just stay there. Kawasaki hooked his finger, indicating that Shui should follow his actions. What's the situation at the border? While walking and talking, Shisui told Kawasaki. At the border, Rock Shinobi has not crossed the border since he retreated. The spies of the various forces in the four great Daos are active frequently, especially those in the Land of Grass and the Land of Taki. Kawasaki nodded, indicating that he understood. Itachi's eyes were severely damaged in this battle. I announced to the public that he can no longer see. Afterwards, Kawasaki explained to Shisui the knowledge of ordinary Mangekyō and eternal Mangekyō. In the past, Shisui only knew that using Mangekyō Sharingan would cause blindness, so he had to use it with caution. So far, Shisui has used Mangekyō Sharingan only a few times, and his vision has not been affected. However, in the last battle, Shisui used Susanoo. After careful inspection, he found that his vision had slightly decreased. Originally, he was still thinking about how many times his Mangekyō could fight. Kawasaki told him that there was also Eternal Mangekyō, a Mangekyō Sharingan that would not cause blindness. Unfortunately, Shisui has no relatives, so this path is no longer feasible. Kawasaki also revealed that there is another way to restore vision, which is to transplant Hashirama cells. In recent years, Orochimaru's experiment has made progress, but it will take time. Senior, my eyes are fine, no rush. Shisui does not rely on Susanoo in regular battles. Besides, his distinguished heavenly gods is still cooling down and cannot be used, and his eyesight is not depleted at the moment. Senior, this is Hidan I brought back as you ordered. Last time, the situation was urgent and I didn't have time to give it to you. Shisui took out 2 storage scrolls from his body. Kawasaki was immediately interested. He also wanted to understand the principle of Hidan's immortality mystery. Can he get some benefits from the evil god? Or, use impure world reincarnation as a sacrifice? Just in time to meet Orochimaru, why not give it to him to study? Uchiha Territory. Advertisement. Shisui guessed that Kawasaki took him to see Uchiha Itachi. But he didn't expect so many people to gather there. In the living room, Fugaku and Mikoto were both there. Fugaku looked calm, Mikoto smiled, and said something to Itachi with a happy face. Itachi's face looked a little unnatural. Shisui was a little confused, not understanding why Fugaku and Mikoto also came. Kawasaki waved his hand and said neatly, Everyone is here, let's go. So, under the leadership of Kawasaki, everyone headed towards the place where the tribe lived. Shisui approached Itachi and asked him about this, and then he learned the whole story. It turned out that today was the big day for Itachi's engagement. Shisui was stunned when he heard it. The senior called him back for this matter. Shuei had naturally heard about Itachi and Izumi's relationship for many years. However, he was still a little surprised to hear the news of his friend's engagement, and then he was sincerely happy for Itachi. Such a big thing, you didn't tell me in advance. After Shisui greeted everyone, he lowered his voice and said to Itachi. Itachi's expression was still a little subtle, and he responded softly. I was planning to tell you after I'm done. You have to be careful. Shisui was confused and asked, be careful about what? Fugaku couldn't see, so he walked at the end of the team with Mikoto. Lek. Hearing Mikoto's call, Yu gave him a look that said, may the best be to you. Although Shisui was unsure, she still went over. As soon as Mikoto started talking, Shisui couldn't resist and said, Shisui, you are not a child anymore. Kawasaki planned to take Itachi to Izumi's house first to let both parents finalize the marriage. Then he would lead everyone to Konoha village. Fugaku and Itachi were going to find Orochimaru to upgrade the Eternal Eye. Although the eye transplant process was quite simple. It could be done in the clan, but this was the only chance in recent years for relatives to merge the Eternal Eye. Such an opportunity was extremely rare, and it would be of great benefit to both the research on Orochimaru and the improvement of Shisui's Sharingan ability. Therefore, Shisui had to go with them. Kiai, of course, it was announced to the public that Fugaku and Itachi were going to do the cloning, while Shisui was the bodyguard. Kawasaki went to Orochimaru for another reason, which was to check on the children in the fourth generation. At the same time, he wanted to test whether Hidan's thing worked. Izumi had been notified before, so when Kawasaki and the others arrived, 0144014228 Filu 150,282,080. Izumi and her mother Uchiha Hazuki were already waiting at the door. Hazuki was in her early 30s, with a gentle face and a kind attitude. Hello, clan leader, hello, elders. Advertisement. Izumi, call me senior, you are Izumi's mother, don't be so polite, just call me Kawasaki. Kawasaki said with a smile. Although Fugaku closed his eyes, his face looked quite friendly. I'm Fugaku. I don't have a position here, just a father. As Itachi's father, I should have come to visit you a long time ago. Yue said a little awkwardly, you are too polite, please come in. Seeing this, Mikoto handed Fugaku to Shisui to take care of, and went forward to get up with Yui. It was not the first time Mikoto and Yui met, and after a few words, Yui quickly relaxed. Today, Kwan was much quieter than usual. Her face was flushed and she looked a little shy. After entering the house, Fugaku and Mikoto went into the inner room to talk to Yui. Kwan brought tea in and left with a blushing face. Fortunately, in addition to Itachi, Shisui was an acquaintance outside, and Kawasaki was also approachable, which allowed Kwan to communicate normally. Why did the senior and Shisui come together? Kawasaki said to Kwan. After you arrange your affairs, we will go to Orochimaru to treat his eyes. Shisui went with him as a guard. Itachi will have to rest for 2 months to treat his eyes. You won't see each other for a while. If you have anything to say, just say it now. Izumi tilted her head and looked at Itachi and said. There is nothing to say. Time is short and long. Itachi looked gentle. After today, his marriage with Hara was settled. In this way, Izumi became his fiancé. I will come to see you when my eyes are healed. Fugaku and Mikoto didn't stay in there for long. To be exact, it was Fugaku who didn't stay in there for long. After things were settled, Mikoto told Fugaku about his feelings. After all, Izumi's father died early, so it was more appropriate for Mikoto and Hazuki to talk alone. After Fugaku came out, he followed Kawasaki and the others to Konoha. Now, the patrol mission of Konoha has been fully entrusted to the Hyuga clan. The whereabouts of the few people were very conspicuous, and the people of the Hyuga clan knew it before they entered the door. Hyuga Yuto came over and asked, Master Kawasaki, what do you want? When Kawasaki saw Hyuga Yuto, his mind turned to the Hyuga family. I came to Orochimaru to deal with something. You go back and tell Hizashi, I will go to see him later. Yes, Master Kawasaki, I understand. Hyuga Yuto then retreated. The group entered Konoha smoothly, and Kawasaki found that there were Anbu secretly monitoring them along the way. He didn't care, and the group soon arrived at Orochimaru's territory. Kawasaki and Orochimaru had fought before, and many nearby buildings were demolished. Chapter 171 Kawasaki's Instructions, Ice Escape, White. This time the laboratory is located underground. What people didn't expect was that the person who greeted them at the intersection was Minato wearing a mask. I'm, number 1, I'll take you to Orochimaru's laboratory. Minato changed his voice and led the way, looking serious on the surface. But he was shouting in his heart, Fugaku, it's me. Minato, I was resurrected by Kawasaki, can you guess it's me? Fugaku frowned slightly, and the blind are more sensitive to sound. The person in front obviously disguised his voice deliberately, and the tone of his speech seemed familiar. But he didn't guess who the other person was. Kawasaki didn't tell Fugaku about the resurrection of the fourth generation. After all, in the ninja world, no one has been able to achieve a true resurrection so far. Fugaku didn't think much, just followed him in. Anbu, who was responsible for monitoring them, saw Kawasaki and his party go to Orochimaru, so he went to report to the third generation. Everyone greeted Orochimaru. Itachi and Shisui were old acquaintances. Although Orochimaru was a partner of Uchiha, Fugaku had not seen Orochimaru for many years. Both sides were quite polite when they met this time. "Lord Orochimaru, I have to trouble you again this time." Orochimaru said without much greeting. "Sit down, I will check your eyes first." Only Orochimaru and Karen were in the laboratory, no Anbu was present. Kawasaki and Orochimaru did not need to act. "I didn't bring any other Sharingan this time, I wanted to try your cloning technology, what the cloned Sharingan looks like." Orochimaru agreed. "I'm also interested in seeing whether it is easier or harder to open the cloned eyes." Originally Kawasaki was going to give Fugaku a Sharingan, after all, the clan had some in stock. But since Orochimaru can clone, why not give it a try? Although the cloned one is a blank Sharingan without eyes. But after all, it is his own, so it will definitely be more convenient to use. At present, we don't lack Fugaku's combat power, we can try to let him open his eyes again. If Fugaku succeeds, then the potential of cloning may exceed expectations. In Konoha village, Orochimaru's laboratory, as early as when Itachi and Shisui were still in Otogakure, Orochimaru tried to clone Sharingan. But the cloned eyes were not opened at that time. Because there are many other research, Fuwakamaru put it aside. Advertisement now that he has returned to Konoha, Orochimaru's technology has also improved. Fugaku doesn't need to fight for the time being, so it's a good time to test whether the cloned ordinary eyes can be reopened. Fugaku and Shisui were taken down by Karen to do some basic sampling and data recording. "Orochimaru, come and take a look at this." Kawasaki took out the scroll containing Hidan while speaking. Then, he explained Hidan's ability to Orochimaru in detail. Orochimaru seemed quite interested. He had only seen this kind of immortal body in literature in the past, but had never seen it in person. Kawasaki unsealed the scroll. He took out Hidan's slightly burnt head and placed it on the experimental table. The body was placed not far away. He opened Hidan's eyelids and used the power of his pupils to perform a rough illusion. A few seconds later, Hidan regained consciousness. There was no change during the sealing period, and the wound in his mouth was still there. He spoke incoherently. "Damn. You, Chia, the evil god, will bring down divine punishment." Orochimaru did not prepare too many tools, he only took 2 scalpels. He inserted the knife into Hidan's mouth, making him temporarily unable to speak. Orochimaru had a blank expression on his face, raised the scalpel, and cut a sample from Hidan's body in front of him for inspection. Seeing Orochimaru's face full of interest, as if he was going to dissect Hidan, Kawasaki hurriedly said to Orochimaru, "I'll go see those children first." Orochimaru was already immersed in his research, and waved his hand casually in response. Continue to dissect Hidan's body. Kawasaki walked out of the room and unexpectedly found Minato waiting outside. "How's life back in Konoha?" There were only the 2 of them here, and Minato also took off his mask. Minato smiled and was very happy about being resurrected. "I've been training recently, and thank you for making kunai for me. There are too many, I can't use them all." Minato used to be an ordinary person, and his favorite swords were all expensive. So he only carried 10 in battle, and Kawasaki directly customized 100 for him through the cat country. When Minato saw this batch of beloved swords, he was surprised, which was enough for a lifetime. "It's okay, we Uchiha are not short of money. If you have many beloved swords, just scatter them all over the ground, so that the enemy can't guess where your flying thunder god will appear. Isn't it wonderful?" Feeling Kawasaki's heroic spirit, men said no more. The beloved sword is already made, what's the point of keeping it? So, he took Kawasaki to find Bai and Kimimaro. On the way, when they talked about Naruto, Kawasaki learned about it. Minato often went to visit Naruto around the school or at Naruto's residence. Advertisement and all this, the third generation Anbu didn't know. Kawasaki could only sigh that this was a dimensional attack. The strength of the fourth Hokage was far beyond the reach of ordinary Anbu. Minato told Naruto's trivial matters at school, his friendships, and the details of dining out with Sasuke. ******. Day after day, it seemed that he wanted to fill the gap of Naruto's past 11 years. In the original world, Minato waited for nearly 17 years, and with Sasuke, he was so tired that Naruto and Obito were forced to separate again. Now, although they have also waited for 11 years, they cannot recognize Naruto for the time being, but it is only a matter of time. "Minato, have you ever thought that besides Obito, we have other enemies?" Kawasaki intends to reveal some information to Minato. Minato restrained his smile, frowned slightly and said, "Kawasaki, who are you talking about?" Kawasaki shook his head and said, "It's hard to explain in a few words. I will explain in detail when Orochimaru takes the position of Hokage. But you need to know that our enemies are extremely powerful, so powerful that I am currently unable to fight back. And their goal is to destroy the world. Please note that it is the destruction of the entire world, not just the ninja world. So, Minato, you don't have to visit Naruto often, you should focus more on improving your own strength. Mark everything that can be marked, in case of emergency. During this period of time with Orochimaru, Minato has seen through Orochimaru's character and has a deep understanding of Kawasaki. Neither of them is ambitious, but they have been secretly planning and expanding. Minato only realized at this moment that there are such enemies. Minato thought about what Kawasaki said, only a few people. Meaning that there are more than 1 or 2 enemies. It seems that the research on immortal arts has to be accelerated. Minato thought to himself and promised, I understand, I will practice seriously. Minato did what he said, and took Kawasaki to Bai and Kimimura's room, and left to find a place to practice. Kawasaki pushed open the door, and the 2 people inside were stunned for a moment. They have been practicing in Orochimaru's territory recently. They don't know much about the affairs of the outside world. Unexpectedly, the visitor is Kawasaki. Bai and Kimimaro greeted him joyfully and said, Master Kawasaki. Kawasaki also said joyfully, I have some free time today, so I came to visit you and see how you are doing with your training. Kimimaro said calmly and confidently, Master Kawasaki, I have made great progress, and I will definitely be able to help you next time. Bai's face was filled with a sweet smile and he said, Master Kawasaki, I can use Ice Escape now. That's great, come, let's have a competition. Soon, Kawasaki left the room of the 2. He didn't let the 2 go out. In the eyes of the 3rd Hokage, his trip was a deal with Orochimaru, and he shouldn't stay for long. Kawasaki simply tested the strength of the 2. Kimimaro's combat instinct was impeccable, and after strengthening his basic skills were already quite solid. Chapter 172 Kawasaki. Amaterasu, by Wooden Golem. It's just that his actual combat experience is slightly insufficient, and he occasionally makes empirical mistakes. Due to Bai's personality, although he can use Ice Escape, the lethality of his ninjutsu is not strong. His combat awareness is also very poor, and his actual combat experience is 0. After the fight, Kawasaki thought about how to enhance the actual combat experience of the 2. When the situation in Konoha stabilizes, he can take them to perform tasks to accelerate the growth of the 2. He and Orochimaru have a plan for Kimimaro's illness. But he has not yet told Kimimaro, the time is not right. Considering that Naruto and Sasuke are about to graduate. They are about to be divided into classes, should he intervene? The 2 of them must be in a group, and the rest of the people don't need to play. Anyway, it's redundant. After seeing the 2, Kawasaki returned to Orochimaru's laboratory. Karen has brought Itachi and Fugaku back. At this time, Orochimaru has completed the examination of Hidan. Hidan's body has been cut into several pieces by 157. Kawasaki thought it would be cruel, but the reality was better than he imagined. Because Hidan's blood is not much and flows slowly. Hidan's immortality comes from a force that protects his soul from leaving his body and slowly repairs his body. He is not truly immortal. Strictly speaking, he is already alive. It's amazing. Orochimaru found out in such a short time. Orochimaru, do you mean that Hidan is just a soul that cannot escape from the body? Kawasaki became more and more curious. He thought Hidan was immortal, but in fact he was in a state between life and death. Yes, the so-called gift of the evil god is to turn believers into living dead and let them collect what they need for the evil god. Can we use his body or that kind of power? Kawasaki's curiosity was aroused. This was what he really cared about. Orochimaru spread his hands and explained. His power comes from the gift of the evil god, and this gift comes from faith. We don't believe in the evil god, so we can't use this power. Kawasaki felt a little disappointed. He originally thought that this thing could be a permanent power source. How can this guy really die? According to Orochimaru, even if Hidan's body was trampled to pieces, he couldn't die, because he was already dead. Advertisement. Orochimaru lost interest in Hidan and said, only when he denies his faith one day, he will really die. Since this thing is useless, Kawasaki plans to get rid of it. After all, keeping it is also a hidden danger. Hidan has been awake all the time, and he heard clearly what Orochimaru said just now. At this time, he whimpered in his mouth, muttering about the evil god, and his eyes were full of ferocity. Kawasaki had the opportunity to try it today. If the immortal Hidan is constantly burned by the never-extinguished black flames, who will laugh last? Kawasaki put Hidan's head on the ground and said to you. Try using Amaterasu to see if he really can't burn. Itachi had no good feelings for this guy who used cruelty to please the evil god. A ball of Amaterasu hit Hidan directly. The black flame wrapped around Hidan's head and burned fiercely, and Hidan let out an indistinct scream. However, there was always a force resisting the burning of Amaterasu, although that force was very weak. Amaterasu can even ignite the air, let alone a small head. Amaterasu was close to the head and kept burning. Hidan endured it for 3 minutes. The moment Amaterasu burned, Hidan's whole head was twitching, and his eyes turned from resentment to fanatical and resentful light, and then turned into despair and numbness. Finally, he closed his eyelids and gave up struggling. Hidan's head turned into a pool of blood in the blink of an eye, and the body next to it also turned into a pool of smelly blood. Ding! Congratulations to the host for greatly changing Hidan's life trajectory. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the special ability, Death Immunity X1. Death Immunity? Kawasaki's interest was instantly aroused. After understanding it, Kawasaki thought, this is really useful. Although it is not immortal, it is already very powerful to be immune to one instant death attack. In this way, Kawasaki is not afraid of being killed by a trick. As long as he is not killed immediately, Kawasaki will always find a way to save himself. I don't know why Hidan dropped this skill, but it's good to be useful. Just as Hidan was being dealt with, far away on the battlefield of the Land of Water, Yu Wooden Golem on Surin Island suddenly felt a crisis approaching. In an instant, Yu Wooden Golem felt unbearable pain in the place where the cursed thorn pierced Yu Wooden Golem before. Puff! Advertisement. Yu Wooden Golem suddenly vomited blood. She and Killer Bee were shocked, and she immediately performed medical ninjutsu. Yu Wooden Golem, you are injured again, you guy. Killer Bee, whose injury has improved slightly, didn't understand. After Yu Wooden Golem vomited blood, his face looked much better. I can feel that the place where I was injured by the Akatsuki Organization before is now recovering. Although she was injured again by the Wooden Golem, she felt that the curse power that had been following her like a shadow suddenly disappeared. She should be able to recover quickly next. She and Killer Bee were overjoyed when they heard this. Although they did not understand the principle of the Akatsuki Organization's technique, they knew that the technique was ineffective. In this way, with Jinchuriki's physique, recovery will be fast. She hurried to tell the Raikage the news. After dealing with Hidan, an exciting moment finally arrived. Itachi, this time is to awaken the eternal Mangekyō for you. Kawasaki warned. You must carefully feel the process of the fusion of the power of the two pupils, which will be of great benefit to the use of the eternal eye in the future. At this time, Itachi looked at Fugaku on the bed next to him and said, Father. Fugaku was very calm. Although the Mangekyō Sharingan was extremely precious, he no longer needed to fight. He reached out his groping hand, found Itachi's hand, and held it tightly. Child, become the new pillar of Uchiha. 11. Hearing this, Itachi responded and shook his hand back with the same force. Orochimaru said to the two, Fugaku, I will take out your two Sharingan later. Don't you want to replace the temporary eyeballs first? It takes time to clone and cultivate eyes. Fugaku shook his head and said, no need, I was blind before anyway, just wait a little longer. Orochimaru agreed and said to Itachi, in the fusion of the eternal eye, the fusion and improvement of pupil power is crucial. I will not give you anesthesia, you have to bear it. You must always pay attention to the changes in your eyes, understand? After getting Itachi's response, Orochimaru began the operation. Kawasaki and Shisui were also weighing on the side. The operation was actually not complicated. In this world, eye replacement surgery is a very simple minor operation. Orochimaru injected a needle into Fugaku's arm, and Fugaku soon fell asleep. Then, in just a few minutes, Orochimaru removed Fugaku's two eyeballs. On Itachi's side, the process was a little more troublesome. Unable to anesthetize, Itachi's eyes were forced to open, and he could only watch the blade approaching. As the intense pain hit, Itachi only groaned, without any other reaction. Orochimaru first cut open Itachi's eye sockets, put his own eyes in part, and then connected the blood vessels and nerves to Fugaku's two eyes. Put the two eyeballs completely into the eye sockets. It sounds simple, and it is indeed not difficult for the snake pill. Chapter 173 Hokage's Deal, Shisui, Kawasaki. There were no special problems except that the two eyeballs shared one eye socket, which was a little crowded. The whole operation lasted only 10 minutes and was completed. Itachi had a strong tolerance for pain. Except for the initial groan, he did not groan throughout the whole process. Although it was extremely painful to connect the nerves and blood vessels, the pain was relieved after the eyeballs were put in. Orochimaru applied medicine to Itachi to promote recovery and wrapped up both of Itachi's eyes. In the next period of time, your eyes and Fugaku's eyes will merge with each other, and your pupils will also intersect. You need to experience this feeling carefully. Once the pupil power is fully integrated, you can open your eyes. Itachi felt that his eyes were no longer so painful, and he agreed, I understand, Lord Orochimaru. Kawasaki instructed Shisui. Itachi will live here in the future, so that Orochimaru can observe him. You can take care of Itachi here. I understand, senior. Kawasaki looked at Fugaku lying on the side. Fugaku's eyelids were sunken because he lost both eyes, and he looked a little scary. In the family, the priority is the clan members, and between husband and wife, the priority is Mikoto. 28 Between father and son, the priority is always Itachi and Sasuke. Tisk, this is really a real tool man father. After the operation on Orochimaru's side was completed. Send Karen out. Karen left Orochimaru's laboratory and came outside. Under a tree, Karen tapped twice. An Anbu member appeared. Karen recalled the instructions of Lord Kawasaki and said, report to Lord Hokage. Uchiha Fugaku does have eye problems and is blind. Uchiha Itachi's eyesight is almost lost, and both of them need Lord Orochimaru's cloned eyes. Uchiha Shisui has been recalled by Kawasaki and is currently with Lord Orochimaru with Fugaku and Itachi. Understood. The Anbu staff said nothing, and disappeared in a flash. Karen's little face showed a cunning smile. She felt that the third Hokage was just like a fool. She was always confused by Lord Kawasaki and Lord Orochimaru. Anbu soon arrived at the Hokage's office. Advertisement. After listening to Anbu's report, the third Hokage waved his hand and asked them to leave. Hearing this news, the third Hokage felt relieved. Fugaku and Itachi both lost their eyesight, and even if their eyes were copied, they would not be Mangekyō Sharingan. In this way, the top combat power of Uchiha was only Kawasaki and Shisui, and the possibility of a military coup was greatly reduced. As long as Uchiha could not seize power by force, the burden on the shoulders of the third generation would not be so heavy, especially in this special period. However, Kawasaki was unpredictable, and the third Hokage did not dare to underestimate him, so he could only wait and see his next move. Just thinking about it, Anbu came to report again outside. Kawasaki came from after leaving Orochimaru. He went to the Hyuga clan alone. The third generation frowned again. Since the peace talks with Cloud Shinobi a few years ago, the Hyuga clan has gradually become estranged from the Hokage. Although the Hyuga clan stole the secret recipe of the restaurant later, the relationship between Uchiha and Hyuga did not deteriorate. On the contrary, Uchiha handed over all the shops in the 8 streets to Hyuga. The close relationship between Uchiha and Hyuga is a big passive for the Hokage. In recent years, Hyuga has managed the guard team very well and handled various problems well. Even Sarutobi Hiruzen, as the third Hokage, has no reason to blame the Hyuga clan. This time Kawasaki went to Hyuga again, and I don't know what medicine he is selling. Seeing that the monthly Konoha high-level meeting is about to be held, whether Uchiha will participate has become an unknown. The situation of the war between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi is unclear. There are many thoughts in my mind. The third Hokage felt particularly tired. He sighed and stood up. He walked to the window, looked at the bustling lights outside the window, picked up his pipe and took a deep puff. In the territory of the Hyuga clan, Kawasaki was warmly welcomed by the Hyuga clan as soon as he arrived. Kawasaki had been here once before, and he still felt that the layout of the Hyuga clan territory was grand. The rockery, courtyard, green bamboo, and mountain spring were arranged just right. In addition, there were many sentries, no need to elaborate. Tall trees prevent peeping, and the perception-weakening barrier is also fully deployed. Even Kawasaki's eternal eye was greatly suppressed. Kawasaki walked and observed. These are all places where the Uchiha family can learn from and improve. Advertisement. Because of the prior appointment, Hyuga Hizashi was also waiting in the clan when Kawasaki visited. Hizashi, it's been a long time since we last met. Kawasaki came to Hizashi's study again and sat down face to face with Hizashi. Hizashi poured a cup of tea for Kawasaki and said, "It's rare that you can take the time to come here, Kawasaki." Kawasaki took a sip of tea and said, "You've been busy lately, haven't you, Hizashi?" Hizashi nodded and said, "Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi are about to go to war, and the future of the war is unpredictable. Konoha's alert level has also been raised." Kawasaki tapped the table lightly and said, "Don't worry, Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi can't fight for long." Kawasaki's voice was very sure. "Oh?" Hizashi looked at Kawasaki with doubt. Kawasaki gave him a meaningful smile in return. Hizashi saw that Kawasaki did not say it clearly, so he did not dwell on this topic, but silently wrote down this information. The Hyuga clan knew about the previous confrontation between Kawasaki and Orochimaru. The third Hokage directly ordered the Hyuga to close the surrounding streets. But the Hyuga did not know the specific situation inside the barrier. What is certain is that Orochimaru stood on the Hokage's bian. "Did you compete with Orochimaru a few days ago?" 317. Kawasaki waved his hand indifferently and said, "I suffered a little loss and exchanged some interests with the third Hokage. The third Hokage gave me another honorary elder position. If a family has 2 honorary elders, then the influence in Konoha is quite large. Before this, only the Hyuga family had 2 respected honorary elders in Konoha village, and now, the Uchiha family has also joined this group. Hizashi, have you ever thought that Sarutobi Hiruzen has been sitting in the position of Hokage for too long?" Kawasaki's sudden words made Hizashi's hand pause slightly. Obviously, he did not expect Kawasaki to bring up this matter suddenly. After a moment, Hizashi slowly responded, "It has indeed been a long time." Kawasaki chuckled and said, "Hizashi, who do you think is more suitable to be the 5th Hokage?" Hizashi was not sure what Kawasaki really thought in his heart, so he did not give a direct answer. "Anyway, our Hyuga family is not suitable, but it seems that the third Hokage has no intention of retiring." Kawasaki said indifferently, "That's because the elders in the family are used to it. If there is a newcomer who can make our family better, someone will definitely propose it. The position of Hokage, under normal circumstances, is either passed away by the predecessor, or the predecessor wants to retire, and then the next Hokage will be elected." Chapter 174, Hokage, Kawasaki's Strength. But there is another way, that is, any elder can propose a replacement during the Hokage meeting. As long as more than 2/3 of the elders agree to re-elect, even if the current Hokage doesn't want to, there is no way to stop it. However, this practice has never happened since the rules were established. The prestige of the first and second Hokage is too high, and there has never been more than 2/3 of the elders who disobey them. After this rule was established, it has never been used. Kawasaki casually said. Thinking back then, there were so many people who could take over the fourth Hokage position, but why did Nawaki, Dan and White Fang all die early due to accidents, and it was Shuichi who had no background who got promoted? Hisashi's hands trembled when he heard it, and he almost dropped the teacup. Kawasaki laughed and said, "Don't be nervous, Hisashi, you are the boss here." Hisashi smiled bitterly and responded, "Kawasaki, you can't talk about this kind of thing without evidence." Kawasaki shook his head indifferently and said, "Other things may require evidence, but what kind of evidence is needed for the White Fang matter?" Hisashi was silent. Indeed, it would be fine if there was no evidence for other things. But the White Fang matter didn't make sense logically. Completing the mission or saving the partners are just different choices. No matter how big the loss was, the village shouldn't have those rumors. At that time, White Fang was a great hero of the village and had made outstanding contributions. Under normal circumstances, even if there was some noise, Anbu should have dealt with it quietly. Not to mention making a big fuss. The most bizarre thing is that when the rumor first started, the third Hokage pretended not to know. As soon as White Fang died, the third generation came out to calm the storm, saying that White Fang was a hero and shouldn't be treated like this. They also pretended to punish a few people. Kakashi was young at that time and couldn't tell many things apart. He thought that the third generation was kind-hearted. He has been loyal to the third generation for so many years. Seeing that Hisashi didn't say anything, Hisashi continued. "I have talked to Kakashi about these things." Hisashi picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea. He thought to himself that if he told Kakashi, it would mean that Kakashi and the third generation would not be able to keep their loyalty. Even if Kakashi has been depressed these years, there are not many people like him who are both capable and loyal to the Hokage. This is equivalent to cutting off an arm of the third generation. Kawasaki added. Now it seems that there are not many candidates who can be the fifth Hokage. Third generation's 3 apprentices are all in the village. But Jiraiya's reputation is not very good. Orochimaru likes to do research and has defected. Advertisement Tsunade doesn't want to be Hokage at all. No matter who the third generation nominates, the number of votes they can get is probably very small. Our Uchiha clan and your Hyuga clan are the 2 clans with the largest number of Jonin in Konoha village. If we can force the third Hokage to choose a new successor. Kawasaki paused and said, our chances of winning are very high. Hisashi became very serious after hearing this. Indeed, as Kawasaki said, the third Hokage currently has few options. Since Kawasaki came to prominence, the prestige of the Hokage lineage has been declining. Many ninja clans are quite disappointed with the third Hokage. Especially the shameful things about Shimura Danzo. Although everyone knows that he has done a lot of shameful things, the details are unclear. The third Hokage simply blamed Danzo for many things, as long as Danzo is executed. It is a great opportunity to restore his reputation. However, no one expected that Shimura Danzo actually escaped. Escaped from the prison with layers of defense and strict security. Moreover, this prison was specially designed to greatly suppress the effect of ninjutsu. Even Danzo, an old man in his 60s, could escape from prison. The consequence of this incident was that the already notorious third Hokage's reputation collapsed again. Many people speculated whether Shimura Danzo's escape was intentional by the third Hokage. With the decline of reputation, trust also decreased. However, because the third Hokage had been operating for many years, it controlled a large amount of Anbu power. Although there were many dissatisfactions, everyone could only endure it. Hisashi felt from Kawasaki's words that the other party seemed to want to unite the major families and elect a new Hokage through voting. Thinking of this, Hisashi stared at Kawasaki with bright eyes. Is the Uchiha clan actually planning to become the Hokage? But Uchiha only has 2 honorary elders, and they have no significant contributions to the village. How can they compete for the position of Hokage? The process of running for Hokage first requires people to nominate candidates. If it is nominated by an honorary elder, more than half of the elders must agree before entering the confidence vote stage. For the nominations of Hokage and advisory elders, there is no need for the initial vote. Directly enter the confidence vote stage. Confidence votes generally have a buffer period of about 2 months. So that the nominees can canvass votes. Advertisement. All elders and Jonin of Konoha each hold 1 vote. As long as your votes exceed those of other candidates, you can become the new Hokage. When the second generation designated Sarutobi Hiruzen, Sarutobi returned to the village and took the throne smoothly after voting. In fact, the selection of Hokage has always had a voting stage. Kawasaki's current first step is to force the election of the 5th Hokage. But this requires the approval of the majority of elders. Facing Hisashi's gaze, Kawasaki continued confidently. The development speed of the major families in Konoha is slightly slow, which is due to the continuous wars in the past few years and too many casualties. There have been fewer missions in recent years, and everyone is not living a happy life. If more funds can be injected, it will surely promote better development. Don't you agree, Hisashi? Kawasaki looked at Hisashi with a smile. Hisashi recalled Kawasaki's business in recent years and understood Kawasaki's calculations. If a large amount of funds are injected, each ninja clan can indeed achieve long-term development. Hisashi responded. Then, let's be frank, Hisashi, the Hyuga clan is currently developing slowly, mainly due to insufficient manpower. The guard team has occupied a lot of your manpower, and your Hyuga clan seems to be a little slow in training the new generation. Kawasaki said as he took out a storage scroll from his body. Put it on the table of Li Jiao, and pushed it towards Hisashi. Here are 100 million, which is our Uchiha's investment in the Hyuga clan. In the future, we will not have more cooperation. Hisashi's cup almost fell on the table. Your words are too direct, you are just giving money to the door? Hisashi smiled bitterly and said, Kawasaki, shouldn't you tell my brother about this? Kawasaki shook his head and said, Hisashi is conservative, I don't like dealing with him, you can just tell him about this. Hisashi wanted to push the storage scroll back, but Kawasaki held his hand and said, Hisashi, there is still a long way to go in the future. Hisashi struggled for a few times, and seeing that Kawasaki's hand was very steady, he gave up. Kawasaki let go, and Hisashi didn't push it back again. Kawasaki nodded with satisfaction. Winning over Hyuga was a key move. During this period of time, the third generation also saw that Hyuga was biased towards the Uchiha clan. But the third generation could not predict how deep Hyuga would cooperate with Uchiha. Kawasaki's trip was also to increase Hyuga's bargaining chips. Chapter 175 Anbu, sensitive person, Kawasaki. Kawasaki raised a finger and said, if we Uchiha sit on the Hokage throne, the position of Hokage assistant will be left to Hyuga. Hisashi clenched his fist involuntarily. For so many years, the Hyuga clan has only one honorary elder in the family. Later, thanks to Uchiha, there was a second honorary elder. Hisashi was already satisfied. After all, in the family structure, it is not easy for the Hyuga clan to obtain power. Now Kawasaki told him that Hyuga can get the position of Hokage assistant. This means the power to manage a department in Konoha, and the benefits brought to the family by the radiation of its power are huge. The benefits and authority are self-evident. This is the promise of our Uchiha clan. If you Hyuga agree, just help me spread some rumors. Kawasaki knew that Hisashi would definitely discuss with Hisashi, so it was enough to say here. As for what kind of rumors to spread, Hisashi knew it well. After saying this, Kawasaki stood up and left. Well, I have something else to do, I will go one step further. See you at the Konoha meeting. Hisashi stood up with a complicated look and said, okay, I will take you out. After sending Kawasaki away, Hisashi hurried to the main family compound. Hisashi had already known that Kawasaki was going to find Hisashi. Hisashi and Uchiha Kawasaki were very close, so Kawasaki often bypassed Hisashi and went directly to Hisashi. Hisashi did not have much objection to this, only the old stubborn people in the clan had objections. Anyway, Hisashi knew the limits and would report to this elder brother. So he also waited for Hisashi's arrival in the room. After Hisashi came, he talked to his brother for a long time. Hisashi finally decided to agree to cooperate. Because the Hyuga clan has an advantage, even if Uchiha fails, the possibility of the Hyuga clan being liquidated is very small. As the Hyuga clan is irreplaceable, whoever becomes the Hokage will want to win over the Hyuga clan. This is exactly the advantage of the Hyuga clan. The main family compound of the Hyuga clan is also a very safe place. Various trees and barriers that weaken perception are no different from the branch house compound. Hisashi and Hisashi never thought that someone would be secretly monitored in such a place. There was a white figure below the room where Hisashi and Hisashi were talking. He listened to the conversation between the two without missing a word. Then he slowly sank into the ground. Advertisement. Leave the Hyuga clan territory. Kawasaki thought in his heart, he had just defeated Kakashi before. And let Orochimaru brainwash him. I don't know what the current situation is. Sisa? Kawasaki changed his mind and went straight to Kakashi's house under Anbu's surveillance. When he arrived at the door of Kakashi's house, Kawasaki found that Kakashi's house is spacious and magnificent, but now it seems a little deserted. The Hitaki family has always been a single-line family. It is estimated that there are not many people in the Hitaki family now. Because there is not even a guard at the door. The door is closed and there is silence. Kawasaki went forward and knocked on the door. After a long time, an old servant came to open the door. Who are you? The old servant was old, with white hair, and looked older than the third Hokage. Kawasaki smiled apologetically and said, sorry to bother you, the Hokage sent me to find Kakashi. The old servant did not suspect anything. After all, sometimes the third Hokage would suddenly summon Kakashi to perform tasks. Please come in. After the old servant closed the door, he led the way. Perhaps because of his age, he always likes to chatter. Young master has changed a lot recently, he is really practicing seriously now. Kawasaki noticed the old servant's address, young master. You have to know that Kakashi is now 26 years old, and White Fang has long passed away. If he still calls Kakashi young master, then this old servant must be an old servant who has been in the mansion when White Fang was alive. Because he watched Kakashi grow up since he was a child, even if Kakashi has grown up, he is still the young master in his eyes. Kawasaki looked up at the moonlight, and it seems that Kakashi has indeed changed. Kawasaki deliberately asked. Kakashi has become so hardworking recently? He used to be lazy a lot. The old servant walked slowly forward and responded. Yes, since the young master's eye injury, he has been more diligent than before, and he has become a completely different person since he came back a few days ago. Practice until dusk every day, but the master's swordsmanship is not so easy to learn, it takes a lot of effort. The old servant's voice became smaller and smaller, and Kawasaki did not hear it clearly. Kawasaki didn't care and started chatting with the old man. After Obito's identity was exposed, Kakashi began to spend a lot of time training. Kakashi used to rely too much on Sharingan. After losing Sharingan, he couldn't find a fighting method suitable for himself. Later, Kakashi carefully sorted out his father's belongings and found that his father had already sorted out the sword skills and kept them at home. Perhaps he was afraid that if something happened to him, the skills would be lost. Kakashi didn't expect to see his father's training notes again 20 years later. Hitaki Tsukumo's notes not only recorded the sword training methods, but also the supporting medicines and chakra stimulation techniques. Advertisement after Kawasaki revealed the truth about his father's death. Orochimaru's words completely ignited Kakashi's fighting spirit. Kakashi trained hard every day. The third Hokage had a major responsibility for his father's death, and he was about to get rid of it. Do you think I'm a fool? Unfortunately, he can't do anything now. He must become stronger, he must be strong enough to make a sound. Whether you are Sarutobi Hiruzen or Shimura Danzo. Kakashi's heart was burning with anger, and he chopped the wooden stake in front of him with a knife. The wooden stake seemed to overlap with the image of an old man with a goatee. The knife flashed. The wooden stake broke into two pieces, left and right. The old servant led Kawasaki to the backyard. There was a slope there, and there was a platform on the top of the slope, and there was some movement. The slope was steep, and according to the old servant's physical condition, he might not be able to climb up. However, the old servant did not try to climb, but knocked on the wooden sign next to the slope a few times. It made a dong 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 sound. The sound above stopped abruptly, and then a figure flashed, and Kakashi jumped down from it. Grandpa Yusuke, what's wrong? The voice came before the person, and Kakashi found Kawasaki below after landing. Master Kawasaki, why are you here? He said the Hokage is looking for you. Kakashi nodded and said to Yusuke gently, I see, let me handle this, Grandpa Yusuke, you go and rest first. At this time, the old servant looked at Kakashi and then at Kawasaki. He shook his head and left, muttering, I am old, so easy to be plaqued. Kawasaki was not embarrassed and turned to Kakashi. Kakashi was soaked and full of sweat and looked extremely tired. Holding a knife in his hand, the blade was shining coldly, obviously a sharp weapon. The style is quite similar to that used by White Fang in the past. It seems that Kakashi has indeed changed a lot. Master Kawasaki, you can just tell Grandpa Yusuke to look for me. Kakashi put the knife back to his back with dissatisfaction. Kawasaki smiled slightly and said, if I don't say that, how can I get in? The door is full of third-generation Anbu staring at it. Kakashi was speechless for a moment. Kawasaki is a sensitive person nowadays, and Anbu must be watching him all the time. Chapter 176. Lord Kawasaki's Power. Re-elect the Hokage. Although his eyes have been copied, they have not been implanted yet, and are still covered by a forehead protector. Kakashi wiped the sweat from his eyes and said tiredly, Master Kawasaki, what do you want to see me for? Kawasaki suddenly moved closer and stuck to Kakashi in an instant. Kakashi was startled and instinctively jumped back. But Kawasaki did not do anything. Instead, he nodded gently and said, not bad, it seems that you haven't been lazy recently, and you finally know how to practice hard. Kakashi looked unhappy, remembering that Kawasaki kicked him when they met a few years ago. Kawasaki scolded him at that time. He didn't understand why Kawasaki was so hostile to him at that time, until a few days ago. He suddenly realized, Master Kawasaki, you came here just to guide me in my practice? Kakashi's words were stiff, which was very different from his previous gentle and lazy appearance. Kawasaki snorted coldly and said, you dared to take Itachi as a hostage a few days ago, I'm here to collect the debt today. Kakashi sighed. In terms of strength or power, he and Kawasaki were not at the same level at all. Kakashi couldn't keep up with Kawasaki's thinking, but at least he knew that this must be a joke. His tone turned helpless and said, Master Kawasaki, don't tease me, just tell me what you want to say. Kawasaki then said seriously, last time you said that you only hope that Konoha and Uchiha can coexist peacefully, right? Kakashi nodded. He wanted to avenge the third generation, and it had nothing to do with the village. So he didn't want Konoha and Uchiha to fight each other. Kawasaki stretched out a finger and shook it. For the various actions of the third generation, do you think the third Hokage can treat us Uchiha fairly? Kakashi was silent. He had not been idle these days. In addition to training, he also inquired about the ins and outs of White Fang's suicide. The more he inquired, the colder Kakashi felt, just as Kawasaki said. When rumors were spreading, the third generation always pretended to be deaf and dumb. It was not until his father died that the third generation stood up for White Fang. Kakashi had been in Anbu and knew that with the power of Anbu, it was impossible to let the rumors develop to that extent. Unless someone deliberately let it go. Many details of the year have been untraceable. But this made him feel more guilty. What have you done all these years? Besides, he has been working under the third generation. Advertisement. Even if he still hates what happened back then, Kakashi has no power and no influence, and he can't do anything. Seeing Kakashi silent, Kawasaki finally revealed the real purpose of his visit today. Kakashi, I think the third Hokage has been corrupted under long-term and absolute power. I plan to persuade the elders to elect a new Hokage. Kakashi was surprised and asked, elect a new Hokage? Kawasaki nodded and said, do you think that the third Hokage should not elect a new Hokage at his age? Kakashi was surprised at first, but then he thought that the third Hokage was nearly 70 years old. The fourth generation has been dead for many years, and it is indeed time to elect a new Hokage. Kawasaki saw that Kakashi seemed to have digested his meaning and continued. If the third Hokage does not want to retire, then the elders will have to vote for the new Hokage. Kakashi shook his head and said, Master Kawasaki, I am not an elder and it is useless to tell me this. Kawasaki disagreed with Kakashi's view and said, although you are not an elder, your attitude is more useful than many elders' words. Kakashi has always been a die-hard fan of the Hokage. If even he thinks that the Hokage should be replaced, that means that the third Hokage has disappointed his most staunch supporter. Kawasaki said bluntly, I have won the support of the Hyuga clan, and with our Uchiha, we now have 4 votes. The elders of Konoha have a total of 22 honorary elders and 3 advisory elders. Hokage assistants are usually selected from the advisory elders, and the next position is the Hokage. The current Hokage is not eligible to vote on the matter of changing the Hokage. If you also agree to change people, it will be much easier to convince other elders. Kakashi didn't expect that he would suddenly become so critical. He thought about it, and the sweat on his body was blown by the wind, and it was chilled. He responded, Master Kawasaki, do you want to run for Hokage? Kawasaki nodded firmly and said, I will definitely run for the 5th Hokage, tit. Kawasaki changed the subject and said, it doesn't matter if I can't be elected. The key is that we Uchiha don't want Sarutobi Hiruzen to continue to be Hokage. You have seen with your own eyes how he suppressed Uchiha over the years. You now know him very well. If you want us Uchiha to live in harmony with Konoha, or even return to Konoha, the only condition for us Uchiha is to re-elect Hokage. Seeing Kakashi still hesitating, Kawasaki said again, we Uchiha have made some money in the past 2 years and plan to invest in the major families. We will bring this up at the next Konoha meeting. Of course, we will also invest some in your Hitaki family. Kakashi was surprised and said, you want to win over the major families with money? Kawasaki shrugged and said, it's so ugly to say win over. We made money in Konoha, and now we give back to Konoha, what's wrong? Please give flowers, besides, I just want to change Hokage, what's the problem? If you agree, after the Konoha conference is over, you and other families will come to our Uchiha. We will give you part of the money, and you just accept it in front of everyone. Kawasaki spoke sincerely, and Kakashi listened to him. Advertisement. Kakashi rubbed his brows and thought for a long time. In fact, he had long been dissatisfied with the third Hokage. No matter what means were taken, it was nothing more than to improve himself and weaken the opponent. So Kakashi did not want to see Sarutobi Hiruzen continue to be the Hokage. Kawasaki said that he would also invest in each family. This was exactly what Kakashi wanted. In fact, he was not short of money in the past, but after the Obito incident, he did not accept any more missions. He practiced hard at home every day. Now that he is old and has wasted so many years, it is not easy to make up for it. When practicing his father's swordsmanship, he used the matching ointment to achieve better results. This ointment can greatly improve the vitality of the body and double the effect of training. Kakashi wants to make up for the lost time, so he can only rely on this. But this medicine requires very expensive medicinal materials. Kakashi has been fishing for 3 days and drying the net for 2 days in recent years, and he actually hasn't saved much money. There were some inheritances left by White Fang, but Kakashi spent a lot of money on weapons to practice swordsmanship, and he spent all of it. Now Kakashi is suddenly short of money, and the harder he practices, the faster he spends the money. Kakashi now understands the importance of strength. Since Uchiha is willing to give, it would be a waste not to take it. Master Kawasaki only asks for the re-election of Hokage? According to Kakashi's idea, Kawasaki should still want to canvass for himself. Unexpectedly, Kawasaki said affirmatively, just re-elect the Hokage. When the Hokage is elected, you can vote for the person you support. Kakashi closed his eyes, then slowly opened them and said, okay, I agree to this. Kawasaki clapped his hands and laughed. That's good, just leave like this. After the next Konoha meeting, you can come to our Uchiha to collect the money. Then I'll take my leave first. Kawasaki got up and left, and Inkashi didn't see him off. Because he knew that someone else would come soon. A cold wind blew, and Kakashi shuddered. He hurried back to his room from the training ground. Just as he was about to take a shower, the old servant Yusuke brought in an anbu. Kakashi, Mie Tianran asked Kawasaki what he wanted to see you about. Kakashi's eyes used to be lazy, but now they are full of sharpness and... Chapter 177. Elder Kawasaki. Let's fight. Uchiha Kawasaki wanted to bribe me, but I refused. Anbu didn't suspect anything and left quickly after getting the news. Kakashi looked at Anbu's back and sneered, "Mountain Cemetery." Black Zetsu was observing Danzo, and Danzo's body transformation was complete. Danzo is not much different from before, except that his skin is grayish-white. And there is a Sharingan on each side of the clavicle, and the right eye is also a Sharingan. Thought fluctuations have always remained at a low level. Black Zetsu continued to collect intelligence and make plans for the next step. Obito's identity was exposed in advance, making the long-term effort full of variables. If things are out of control, he needs to activate the backup plan in advance. In Konoha, White Zetsu, arranged by Hyuga Kato, has dispersed many clones. There are often important news. Today, another White Zetsu came back and reported the content of the conversation between Hizashi and Heishi. Does Uchiha want to take the position of Hokage? 960? White Zetsu asked after reading the intelligence. Black Zetsu said uncertainly, "It's not clear yet, but Konoha may have to make a big move. Uchiha and Konoha have not been fighting, which is not good for our plan. If this continues, when will I be able to experience the feeling of smoothness?" White Zetsu asked somewhat dissatisfiedly. Although Black Zetsu has lived for thousands of years, there are still some questions that White Zetsu cannot answer. Black Zetsu turned his eyes to Danzo lying. Hashirama's cells have been deeply integrated with Danzo, and you will be able to control his body by then. Maybe I can let you experience that wonderful feeling in advance. As soon as Black Zetsu finished speaking, White Zetsu immediately became excited. Wow! Then I really can't wait. As he said this, he was eager to get rid of Black Zetsu's restraints. Black Zetsu grabbed White Zetsu and said, "Don't be impatient. If you use Danzo privately, Obito will be dissatisfied. Although Obito was defeated, he has not returned yet. Obviously, he is more cautious about us. At this time, let's not make trouble for ourselves." White Zetsu had no choice but to merge with Black Zetsu again and said, "But I really can't wait too long." Black Zetsu comforted him a few more words, and then said, "The opportunity is getting heavier now. It seems that we need to find another ally." White Zetsu asked puzzledly, "Are there any suitable allies?" Black Zetsu laughed lowly. "The ninja world is so big, there will always be a way." Advertisement in Konoha village. The Hyuga clan has been responsible for guarding duties for some time. Now they are at ease. Besides, the Hyuga clan has a gentle temperament and gets along very well with the villagers. Recently, the Hyuga people have become particularly talkative. But every time they chatted, they always intentionally or unintentionally led the topic to certain specific directions. For example, they would say, "Hokage-sama is old and has a heavy responsibility and is very hardworking. I often see Hokage-sama working late at night. I'm really worried that if this continues, Hokage-sama's body will not be able to bear it." The topic naturally turned to the fact that the third Hokage has been in this position for many years. While talking, some other Hyuga people mentioned the fact that Konoha has lost many septuagenarians in recent years. At the end of the conversation, it seemed as if all this was Danzo's masterpiece. Originally, the rise of the Uchiha clan could bring great development opportunities to Konoha. But because of Danzo, the Uchiha clan was forced to leave Konoha. Did the Hokage know nothing about this? Although the Hyuga people did not say it, the family had already made up their minds. In Konoha village, a few days passed quickly. During this period, Kawasaki arranged for his men to sort out the rosters of various families in Konoha. Prepared to take action at today's Konoha high-level meeting. Fugaku could have returned to the Uchiha clan, but he was worried about Itachi, so he stayed with Orochimaru. After all, his cloned eyes often need his cooperation to debug. It's more convenient to live there. Today is Konoha's monthly high-level meeting. And this meeting is a little special. A few days ago, the third Hokage used his power. He fought for an honorary elder position for Uchiha from a small ninja clan. The number of honorary elders is fixed, and the third Hokage took a lot of trouble to do this. Whether it is a tricky robbery or a trade-off, outsiders have no way of knowing. The situation is sensitive, and everyone knows the intention of the third Hokage. They are also curious about what Uchiha Kawasaki is planning. The elders entered one after another, and everyone's eyes were focused on the Uchiha seat, where there were 2 empty chairs. The third Hokage sat in the first seat. He wanted to see if Min-chia would attend. This is crucial to the attitude towards Uchiha in the future. As the meeting time approached, an Anbu member approached the third generation and whispered. The third generation nodded gently and waved the Anbu away. Then, the third generation looked at the door, and other ninjas were also wondering if the Uchiha people had arrived. Advertisement as expected, Kawasaki walked into the meeting room with Fugaku, who was resting with his eyes closed. Fugaku was led to his seat by Kawasaki. This was the first time Fugaku had appeared in public since the attack on Uchiha. Everyone's attention was drawn to his closed eyes. Fugaku's eye sockets were sunken due to blindness, which made him look a bit scary. The elders had their own thoughts in their minds, but they didn't show any expression on their faces. After Fugaku sat down, Kawasaki said to everyone, "I'm sorry, everyone. Elder Fugaku was a little late due to an eye injury." Then, he nodded slightly to Heishi and Hizashi of the Hyuga family and greeted them again. The elders responded politely. Elder Kawasaki, you are so polite. You are here just in time. We arrived too early. Kawasaki exchanged a few simple pleasantries and then took his seat. This was the first time that Uchiha had entered a meeting of Konoha's leadership. But in Fugaku's heart, there was only a slight ripple, and then he returned to calm. For him, Konoha's high-level meetings were no longer what he wanted in the past. For Kawasaki, the circle and the high-level meetings were just a means, not the ultimate goal. Therefore, Kawasaki did not have too many emotional fluctuations. The eyes of several elders occasionally passed over Fugaku's sunken eye sockets, flickering, and each had their own thoughts in their hearts. The third Hokage tapped his pipe lightly, and the meeting room quickly quieted down. The third generation spoke first. First of all, the first thing to be discussed at this meeting is the war between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi. About the progress of the war and the countermeasures that Konoha should take. All the elders looked at Uchiha Kawasaki. After all, it was his first time attending the meeting. They wanted to see what Uchiha's attitude was. The blind Fugaku was mainly expressing his opinion here, and the rest of the time he was just a symbol. 4.8. Kawasaki slowly stood up and said calmly, I predict that the war between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi will last for a long time. The invasion of Cloud Shinobi is large-scale, and the two Jinchuriki and Raikage are at the front line, determined to win. The current resistance of Mist Shinobi shows that their Jinchuriki seems to have a problem. If Mist Shinobi suffers heavy losses in the first round of Cloud Shinobi's offensive, it is likely to use dispersed guerrilla tactics to counterattack. As for how far the battle between Mist Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi will develop, it is still unclear. But Mist Shinobi will definitely not sit idly by. All ninja villages are actively preparing for war. I think we in Konoha should not let Iwagakure's people pass through. We have to wait until the battle situation is clear before making a decision. We Uchiha have already taken action and sent people to the Shikoku Road to prevent Rock Shinobi from getting close. Konoha must prepare for the battle in advance, so as not to be caught off guard in the future. Kawasaki said righteously. Advertisement Chapter 178. What is a genius? Kawasaki's arrogance. On the surface, it seemed like he was helping Konoha analyze the situation, but in fact, he was just beating around the bush. In the final analysis, there were two meanings. We Uchiha and Cloud Shinobi have joined forces, and now we can't let Rock Shinobi bully Cloud Shinobi. The elders looked at each other and then looked at the third Hokage. The third Hokage pondered for a moment. Kawasaki's interception of Rock Shinobi was a foregone conclusion, and it was his first time speaking at the meeting, so the third generation couldn't directly refute it. The situation with Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi is not clear yet. We will make the next plan after Cloud Shinobi's army lands. Kawasaki then sat down. In the following time, other elders expressed their opinions on this war. Udadane Kaharu, who was in charge of medical care, suggested stockpiling more medical supplies in case of emergency. Hyuga, the captain of the security team, considered the transfer of personnel and the adjustment of the operation of the barrier during the war. In short, everyone was mobilizing for war. Kawasaki did not stand up to speak again, because he knew in his heart that this battle would not drag on for too long. He came today, in fact, for another purpose. Finally, the long half-hour passed. It was the turn of the free proposal session. 28. This is usually the time for the interests of all parties in the village to be exchanged. Kawasaki had been waiting for this moment for a long time, and stood up suddenly. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. Kawasaki took out a small notebook from his arms and said, I propose that the Nara family's deer farm be doubled in size, raise more deer, and provide more antlers from Konoha. The head of the Nara family is Shikaku now, but the elder present is not him. It is the old patriarch of the Nara family, named Nara Shikago. Shikago is old, and his hairstyle is similar to Shikamaru and Shikaku, but the two are Madara white. The Nara family is one of the elder families that joined Konoha in the early days of the establishment of the Fire Country. Usually low-key, family members generally have high IQs. Their family has a clear division of labor, so they are rarely needed to speak at Konoha's meetings. He originally closed his eyes to rest, and slowly opened his eyes after hearing this. He slowly said, the deer antlers in the village are currently sufficient, and a sudden expansion of the deer farm will increase unnecessary expenses. Kawasaki nodded and said, Uchiha is entering Konoha's senior management for the first time, and wants to do something practical for Konoha. FFFFLX. In the Konoha senior management meeting room. Advertisement, therefore, we are willing to provide a plan to help the Nara family expand the deer farm. After the expansion is completed, I hope that our Uchiha tribe will be given priority in providing some medicinal materials in the future. The elders discussed it after hearing it. Expanding the deer farm is no small matter. Manpower needs to be increased, and material resources such as fodder need to be more. The Nara family has been raising deer for generations, and deer antlers and related medicinal materials are an indispensable part of Konoha's medical system. At the same time, it also maintains the normal operation of the medical system. Therefore, the Nara clan's position in Konoha is as solid as a mountain. I didn't expect Uchiha to propose investment as soon as he arrived. And the exchange condition is just priority supply, which is simply free. It's like you tell the fruit seller, I will double your store, and you just need to give priority to selling my fruit in the future. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the third Hokage. The third Hokage didn't expect Kawasaki's move and frowned. He said in a steady tone. This matter is no small matter, I have to go back and discuss it with the clan. Kawasaki didn't mind Shikagawa's delaying tactics. He ticked the box on the notebook and continued. We Uchiha are willing to subsidize the Akamichi clan to increase the research and development of secret medicines. We will try to make it available to ordinary ninjas and reduce the probability of ninja casualties. We Uchiha are willing to subsidize the Yamanaka clan to strengthen the research and development of secret techniques and better serve the battle. We Uchiha are willing to provide financial support. Kawasaki listed the names of 20 to 30 families in one breath. In Konoha, apart from the Sarutobi, Shimura, Utatane, and Suigetsuman families. He mentioned all the other well-known families. The Hyuga family was not mentioned because Kawasaki had already sent gifts in advance. The Aburame family received funds to raise insects. The Inazuka family received funds to raise dogs. Even the family with only Kurenai Yuhi left received funding. The reason was to study illusions. The Hitaki family was obviously a single-line family, but they also received funding on the reason of studying swordsmanship. In short, Kawasaki spent money like crazy. This generosity was simply overwhelming. The investment projects he listed added up to at least tens of billions. The various ninja clans were stunned by Kawasaki's wealth. They speculated how much Uchiha had earned over the years. The third Hokage had mixed feelings and thought that Uchiha might use a roundabout way to save the country. After making money, they would win over the major families of Konoha. I didn't expect Uchiha to be so direct, just throwing money at it in a simple and crude way. Advertisement. After reading the list, Kawasaki concluded. I hope that our Uchiha's meager strength can add a little strength to Konoha's prosperity. Everyone turned their eyes to the third Hokage to see how he would respond. The third generation and the two advisory elders were livid. Kawasaki's actions did contribute to Konoha, but why did they ignore their four families? Do they not need money for the development of their families? Or is it free money? But the money belongs to Uchiha, he can give it to whoever he wants, and what you say now will only make you feel bored. Similarly, if the third generation prevents these families from accepting Uchiha's investment, these families will definitely not be happy. Uchiha is basically giving it away for free, and it does not harm Konoha's interests. Why don't we accept it? The third generation held the pipe tightly and gritted his teeth and said. Since the Uchiha family has such good intentions, I thank you on behalf of all the families in Konoha. The third generation said thank you, but there was no gratitude in their tone. Kawasaki didn't care. This was a clear strategy. Could the third generation stop others from getting rich? The meeting then entered a lengthy 240-session meeting. Everyone's mind was no longer on the agenda. Compared with those trivial matters, everyone was more concerned about the details of Uchiha's investment. The third generation was anxious when they saw this situation, but they had to announce the adjournment of the meeting. Kawasaki didn't mention any of the families that were in the same boat with the third generation. And families like Nara, Akamichi, and Yamanaka, although they belonged to the Hokage system. But families that had no conflicts with Uchiha were all included in the funding list by Kawasaki. When the third Hokage walked out of the meeting room, the Haka ninja clan immediately surrounded him. The big clans that were on good terms with the third generation still had to consider and discuss this kind of investment. And the small clans that were declining couldn't care so much. These small clans were declining for various reasons and were very short of money. After all, the first problem in ninja training is resources, followed by talent. Ninja tools alone cost a lot of money. As for the magic charms, they are luxury items for the rich. Otherwise, the reward for completing the task may not be enough to cover the consumption of the charms. Learning ninjutsu also costs money. The inheritance in a small family is limited, and there is no guarantee that every ninjutsu is suitable for the younger generation. What to do? Pay money to buy secret books, and teach them. Some super difficult ninjutsu cannot be self-taught by giving you a secret book. You have to pay out of your pocket and hire a teacher to teach you step by step. There are very few geniuses who can learn ninjutsu at a glance. The gap between geniuses and ordinary people is not a little bit. Chapter 179 Kawasaki's Big Move, Eternal Mangekyō. Everyone is looking at the 12 little strong men with special skills, but they don't notice that these people are either from famous families or have met good masters. They have no shortage of talent and resources. Other small families or ordinary people don't have such luck. The teacher should be happy if he doesn't treat you as servants. When there is no mission, ordinary Chunin genin live a very tight life. Ninjas are all living on the edge of a knife. It is common to be born and die, and it is also common to have good luck. But medical ninjas are very scarce and difficult to train. Most of them belong to Konoha village. Only jobs assigned by the village can get free treatment. If you take the job yourself and get injured, you have to pay for the treatment yourself. If there is someone in the team who knows some medical ninjutsu, even if he is a wild one, that can save a lot of money and maybe save lives at a critical moment. So, even if the medical ninja is not very strong, there are still people who are willing to take them on missions together. Ninja tools cost money, and so does medical treatment. If you don't treat your injuries, you can't continue to take on missions, so what will you eat and drink? Many small families are weak and rely on a few pillars to support the scene. Once there is a mistake, people are gone. The family will immediately decline. In the final analysis, this matter is inseparable from the word, money. Now that Uchiha suddenly spends money, how can these small families not be excited? Kawasaki waved his hand to calm everyone down and said, "If you are willing to accept investment from the Uchiha clan, you can go to the Uchiha territory to find our fourth elder Yangping. We Uchiha never do anything empty, nor do we talk nonsense. There are no prerequisites. If you want to join, just give money directly. For those who are not here today, I will arrange for someone to come to talk. I still have to take Elder Fugaku to treatment, so I'll leave first." Everyone consciously made way, and Kawasaki took Fugaku away. Many people hurried back to the family, and some began to contact those who were not present. They planned to send someone to Uchiha to see what was going on. Kawasaki took Fugaku away and prepared to find Orochimaru. See how Itachi's eternal Mangekyō was integrated and then settle Fugaku there. Next, once the new place is settled, Uchiha needs more strong people to protect the family. Itachi's completion of the evolution of the Eternal Eye is also of great benefit to the Uchiha clan as a whole. In Konoha village, after the Konoha meeting, the elders dispersed in 2s and 3s. Advertisement. There was a lot of discussion, and the incumbent Kawasaki used those words. There are many families in Konoha, and the most powerful ones are naturally Uchiha and Hyuga. Privately, the most prosperous ones are those who are close to the third Hokage. Like the Sarutobi family, the Utatane Kaharu family, the Mitokado Homura family, and the Shimura family. Especially the Sarutobi family, which has grown a lot quietly in recent years, but its reputation is not obvious. Many Anbu members are actually from the Sarutobi family. And those lucrative jobs are basically contracted by these big families. The Hyuga family is popular everywhere because of its unique skills. In the past, when Uchiha carries out missions, they usually only work with their brothers. Now that the mission system has come, small families and civilians can hardly get any benefits. It is impossible to get rich, and it is just a matter of making a living. Everyone knows that this is a way for Uchiha to win people's hearts. But who wouldn't take advantage of it? Uchiha's trick is simple and crude, but it works. The elders discussed it and decided to send people to Uchiha to take a look. These are the family representatives whose names Kawasaki read out. It is a long way from Konoha to Uchiha's territory, and everyone has the same destination. They naturally gathered together. As they walked, everyone found that the team was full of people from small families. As for those big families, they said they would reconsider the investment proposed by Kawasaki. But no one expected that. A big celebrity from Konoha actually sneaked into the team, Hitaki Kakashi. The arrival of Kakashi made things more meaningful. As the group chatted on the road, everyone found that the reason for Uchiha's investment was very casual. Basically, they just made up a reason and invited the people from these families. The time was almost up, and everyone walked towards the Yongjia territory. The people of Uchiha were also very polite. They led them all to the reception room. Dozens of family representatives filled the room. The fourth elder Yangping glanced around, and sure enough, none of the big families that were on good terms with the Hokage came. All the people who came were small families, and only 1 or 2 people from the family of the enclosure were left. But Kakashi's presence was enough. The fourth elder, Yangping, took the main seat, and everyone below fell silent. The fourth elder said, "Advertisement, 2 people from our Uchiha clan have been promoted to honorary elders. The clan leader considers that the Uchiha clan has been operating in Konoha well over the years and has made a lot of money. Take from the people and use it for the people. So, from now on, the Uchiha clan will support the various clans in Konoha, hoping that Konoha will become more and more prosperous." The fourth elder changed the subject. The third Hokage was wise and brave when he was young, but he is old and his energy is not as good as before. I heard that he works until late at night every day for the development of the village, and he is busy with endless official business, which is really hard. We Uchiha also want to share the burden with the third-generation adults. How could the people below not understand? After thinking about it, they will understand. Isn't it obvious that the third generation can do the job of Hokage? The elder Yangping saw that everyone had digested his words. He continued. In addition to supporting the families present here, we Uchiha also plan to carry out practical training within the family. Practical training, as the name suggests, applicants can receive practical guidance from Uchiha masters. And, all free. There was an uproar below. A family like Uchiha is doing practical training, and it's free. If you want to say which family has the strongest practical ability, Uchiha is the first. Everyone in the Uchiha family is a versatile person. Ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, everything is top-notch. They are the best practical sparring partners. Why practical training? Because most of the jobs that genin take now are to catch cats, dogs and insects, which are very low level. No. The pay is pitifully low. If you want to take higher level tasks, you must be at least a chunin or above. Among civilians, it is considered good to take the chunin exam twice. Those who pass it once are usually geniuses. In the final analysis, it is a lack of practical experience. The chunin exam is a real fight, and many genins have never fought with anyone. Uchiha did this to fill the huge gap in the transition from genin to chunin. The key is, Uchiha said, It's all free. The crowd below went wild, and they couldn't believe it was true. Kakashi originally just wanted to make a show, but when he heard that Uchiha was going to give a practical class, he was extremely surprised. I thought, Uchiha is not doing this for face, right? Elder Yangping said a few simple words, and then went straight to the point, handing out money, without any additional conditions, just pure money. When Uchiha's people started to distribute the money, everyone was still a little hesitant. It was not until they saw Kakashi took the box of money that the others took it with confidence. Chapter 180 Secret Technique, Heart Seizing. In the crowd, there were actually spies planted by Sarutobi Hiruzen, but Uchiha deliberately let them see clearly. Each box was exactly the same, and no one knew how much was in it. No one dared to open it on the spot. After the money was distributed, they dispersed without saying a word. Kakashi carried the heavy box home, and when he opened it, he was shocked. It was full of large denomination banknotes. Is this the so-called, a little thing? Kakashi was completely confused. He thought Uchiha was just pretending to express his attitude, but he didn't expect that they really spent money. Facing this hot money, Kakashi felt mixed emotions. But at the moment, he really needed funds to strengthen his own strength. He has been sitting in the position of third Hokage for a long time. Uchiha also sent people to Nara, Akamichi, Yamanaka, Inazuka and other big families, and also delivered money to their doorsteps. It is said that Kakashi accepted the money, and Uchiha wanted to conduct practical teaching, and the Nara family also accepted it. Seeing this, other families followed suit. Hokage building, inside the Hokage office. After Anbu summarized the information he had collected to the third generation, he was signaled to leave. The third generation originally wanted to win over Kakashi again, but now it seems that there is little hope. Uchiha Kawasaki played this trick beautifully. Only a powerful family like Uchiha has the financial resources and leisure to provide free practical training. Needless to say, once this is done, Uchiha's reputation will be very high. What's more, Kawasaki blatantly tried to win over the major families. Saying that he was not energetic enough and working overtime late, it was clearly saying that Sarutobi Hiruzen, was no longer qualified for the position of Hokage. Uchiha Kawasaki, every move is indeed extraordinary. We can't let Uchiha act like this anymore. The next batch of graduates from the ninja school will soon be released. If Uchiha provides free practical training, its reputation will definitely soar. By then, Uchiha will be fully capable of initiating a vote to dethrone me, the Hokage, and I will be helpless. The third generation's pipes burned out, and their minds have made a decision. The battlefield of the Land of Water. The Raikage's early landing ruined Mist Shinobi's plan of strong attack. Mist Shinobi was powerless in front of him. Cloud Shinobi was busy rebuilding and treating the destroyed base and suffering heavy casualties. So, Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi temporarily stopped fighting. On the shore of Suzawa Island, a figure slowly stepped onto the beach between the ebb and flow of the tide. Advertisement Kakuzu examined his reborn hands and one leg, which had firm muscles and full strength, but unfortunately the skin color was very different from the original. Kakuzu sighed. This time the loss was heavy. If he hadn't been alert to hide the water attributed earth blame in the sea, he would have died. The earth blame was severely damaged, losing 2 arms and 1 leg. If it weren't for the fight between Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi, Kakuzu would have no chance to recover. Moreover, most Cloud Shinobi only have hearts with thunder attributes, and now Kakuzu only has hearts with water and thunder attributes. This made him feel more uneasy than ever before. His hands were empty, and the North Ring he once had was gone, so even contacting the organization became a problem. He had finally managed to get 2 Cloud Shinobi who had fallen into the water, and he wanted to fish in troubled waters and make some money. Unexpectedly, as soon as he poked his head out, he saw Raikage beating Mizukage, and he was so scared that he quickly dived back into the water. After dealing with the bodies of the 2 Cloud Shinobi, Kakuzu changed his direction and went ashore. At this time, he had nothing, not even a decent coat, and his pants were all taken from Cloud Shinobi. It had been a long time since he had been so miserable. Fortunately, Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi each had their reasons for retreating, which allowed Kakuzu to go ashore without any burden. He planned to gather intelligence first, look for members of the organization, learn about Hidan's situation, and whether the leader had arrived. As a master who has been in the ninja world for many years, Kakuzu, who also possesses the unique skill of Earth Grudge, has first-class reconnaissance ability. On the coast of Surin Island, 3 Rock Shinobi members were busy. Rock Shinobi has a large population, and there are also many ninjas on missions. These 3 people happened to be on a mission near the Rainbow Country. After receiving the notice from the village, they gave up their original mission and rushed to Surin Island to collect intelligence. Other groups have been paying attention to the movements of Cloud Shinobi at sea, and their mission is to investigate the situation of Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi on the island. They arrived a little late and missed the duel between Kawasaki and Obito, but caught a spy from Kusagakure and learned about the fierce battle of Susanoo that night. This trip, they are going to investigate the huge pit caused by Kawasaki's last attack, hoping to intuitively analyze the attack attributes of Kawasaki Susanoo from the traces of the pit and obtain more information. The group arrived at the destination and carefully approached the edge of the pit to observe. The edge of the pit was as smooth as a mirror, without any cracks. Whether it was sea sand or reefs, it seemed to be accurately removed by an invisible mouth without leaving a trace. The rock shinobi felt a chill in their hearts. What kind of power could create such an effect? They were temporarily assigned and their strength was mediocre. There was only one special Jonin in the team, and the other two were Chunin level. According to their understanding, only Tsuchikage's dust release could cut everything so neatly. But Susanoo's attack was obviously not dust release. Special Jonin Iwagi gave the order. Doju, Ogyu, take some samples and take them back for research. Doju and Ogyu searched everywhere, while Iwagi looked around vigilantly. Advertisement. This island is full of dangers, and one can die if one is not careful. They came late, and other forces should have completed the exploration. It should be safe around now, right? As soon as Iwagi had this thought, a monster suddenly emerged from the sand on the left, wearing a light blue mask and wrapped in black lines all over his body. Water style, water curtain tent. Dyuanyu opened his mouth, and a powerful water cannon gushed out. Iwaiji's heart trembled, and he quickly used his best ninjutsu. Earth style, earth flow wall. Yan Wei slapped the ground with his palm, and the soft sand instantly solidified into a wall, surrounding the three people. The fierce water cannon hit the earth flow wall, and the dull sound was deafening. Cracks quickly appeared on the earth flow wall. Yan Wei's heart sank. What the hell, water attribute attacks are so powerful when hitting the earth flow wall. Tuju and Degi hurriedly joined forces to transport chakra, and the earth flow wall gradually became thicker, and then it resisted the attack. The three people didn't have time to catch their breath. Another person appeared on the right, and he also wore a dark blue mask on his shoulder. A huge ball of lightning had gathered in the mouth of the mask. Lightning style, pseudo-dark. The strong lightning flashed in an instant, almost in the blink of an eye. The earth flow wall of rock shinobi was instantly penetrated, and the three rock shinobi members screamed and fell to the ground. Yan Wei still had a breath, but he had lost consciousness. At this time, countless black lines sprang out from the ground and directly tied up Yan Wei. Kakuzu carefully tied Yan Wei twice, connected it to the ground through the ground resentment, and dragged Yan Wei towards himself. Kakuzu checked and confirmed that this was the heart he wanted. A cruel smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Secret technique, heart capture. The black filaments wrapped around Yan Wei by Kakuzu suddenly pierced his chest. Pulled out a still beating heart. Kakuzu nodded with satisfaction and instantly put the heart into his body. Dong dong, the sound of the heart beating sounded, indicating that he could use earth attribute ninjutsu. He was checking the scene of the battle between Obito and Kawasaki. Sensing someone approaching, he quickly used the ground resentment to drill under the beach. It happened that he lacked an earth attribute heart, and the person who hid behind him fell into the trap. Kakuzu felt that he was lucky. After a careful plan, he didn't expect that the three people were mediocre, and Kakuzu's backhand was not used. Chapter 181. Hokage. Kawasaki's tricks. Papa, the sound of applause startled Kakuzu. How could he not notice someone so close to him? Kakuzu jumped sideways, and the pseudo-darkness emitted by the thunder attribute of the ground resentment on his shoulder swept behind him. But there was only the roar of thunder and lightning behind him, and no sound of the enemy being injured. Kakuzu turned his head and saw a man wearing a black robe and half of his face full of wrinkles clapping expressionlessly. Kakuzu, you are actually here, quite interesting. Obito didn't expect that when he had just recovered and was about to come back to collect intelligence. Just after coming out of Kamui's space, he witnessed Kakuzu digging out the heart. Kakuzu still didn't understand why his ninjutsu didn't work. But when he saw Obito's face and eyes, Obito's pupil power burst out, Kakuzu rolled his eyes, and a bounty order flashed through his mind. 300 million, then he fell to the ground. The third Hokage had just arrived at Orochimaru's territory. Karen immediately sensed it with Kagura's mind eye and reported it to Orochimaru. At this moment, Orochimaru had just completed the operation for Kakashi. After hearing the news, he did not have any special opinion on the Hokage. Instead, he warned Kakashi, your cloned eyes have just been created and are still very fragile. It will take some time to adapt, about half a month to a month. Don't overuse your eyes during this period. Kakashi finally had both eyes to see. Unlike the previous transplantation of Sharingan, this is his own eye, without burden. He no longer needs to cover his eyes every day, he doesn't have to worry about not having enough chakra. After Orochimaru's previous enlightenment, plus the friendship of the cloned eyes, Kakashi is now closer to Orochimaru. Kakashi is still thinking about the impure world reincarnation. But after listening to Karen's words, he knew that the third Hokage was coming. He had to visit Lord Orochimaru another day. Kakashi walked out of the door with his eyes wrapped in gauze, and just met the Hokage who came in. Hokage-sama. Kakashi was stunned for a moment before greeting him, but there was a hint of elusive emotion in his eyes. Is Orochimaru in there? The third Hokage had no time to care about Kakashi for the time being. After getting Kakashi's affirmative answer, he walked into the inner room. Advertisement. Kakashi looked back and then left. Orochimaru was packing up the equipment, because Kakashi's eye replacement was just a small operation for him. He was more concerned about the state of the cloned eye returning to the body. Kakashi's eye was delayed for a longer time because Orochimaru collected data more carefully. In another laboratory, Fugaku's cloned eye was being cultivated. Itachi's Sharingan was also fusing the eternal eye. Forget about Kakashi's data. Orochimaru directly replaced Kakashi. Orochimaru. The third generation walked in, without Anbu behind him. Orochimaru said without even looking up, "Old man, what are you doing here?" The third generation saw that Orochimaru was calm and let out a breath slowly. The Uchiha has taken action. After saying this, Orochimaru looked up and said, "What did Kawasaki do?" The third generation talked about the Uchiha family's money-spending behavior. The Uchiha family also successfully won over the Hyuga family. Various rumors have spread in the village. The rumors about the Hyuga family were very subtle and only stirred up topics among the villagers. Induce the villagers to tell some real situations. For example, the third generation has been in power for a long time and is reluctant to let go. For example, the third generation condoned Danzo's evil deeds, causing Konoha to suffer huge losses. Although Danzo was arrested, he was imprisoned in solitary confinement and eventually escaped, and so on. You know, the Hokage has Anbu under him. If you talk nonsense, you will be arrested. But what others talk about are facts, and you can't arrest all the villagers. Orochimaru chuckled and said, "Old man, you are in trouble. Uchiha is plotting." Kawasaki only told Orochimaru that he was going to make peace with the major ninja clans. He didn't tell him the specific method, and Orochimaru didn't care much at the time. Now after listening to the report from the third Hokage, Orochimaru realized how direct Kawasaki was. First, he tried to win over the Hyuga clan and spread the truth that was unfavorable to the third generation. Then he directly used money to win over the various ninja clans. But the third Hokage had no good plan. Seeing Orochimaru's attitude, the third generation thought about it and said to Orochimaru, "You just let Uchiha win people's hearts like this. Uchiha has no good intentions now." Uchiha's actions are all overt, and the third generation can see through his intentions at a glance. But the power of overt conspiracy is that it cannot be targeted. You can only deal with it head-on. Advertisement in the third generation obviously wants to bet on Orochimaru. But Orochimaru just shook his head and said, "Fugaku and Itachi still rely on me to clone their eyes, they can only beg me." The third generation felt helpless when they saw that Orochimaru looked like he had no interest. After Orochimaru tricked Uchiha, his hostility towards Uchiha was no longer deep. After all, Uchiha suffered a loss. In the subsequent division of profits, Orochimaru can continue to take advantage of Uchiha. Now Orochimaru has sufficient funds and territory. He stays in the laboratory doing experiments all day and doesn't care about other things. After Orochimaru returned, the third Hokage also observed him for a long time. The results of the observation were mixed. The good news is that Orochimaru's wisdom is enough to rival Kawasaki. The bad news is that Orochimaru is not interested in power at all. Now he is more obsessed with experiments than before. In the past, he would carry out tasks to attract some people to follow Orochimaru voluntarily. Behind Orochimaru, there is still a group of loyal followers. Now Orochimaru had no interest in carrying out the mission. There were only a few people left beside him, except for a personal guard and a few little guys. Therefore, until today, the third Hokage has not asked Orochimaru whether he is interested in becoming Hokage. However, today, the third Hokage suddenly realized. Even if Orochimaru has no intention of taking the position of Hokage, he can be pushed to the front, and the power can be held in his own hands. Just like the fourth Hokage was introduced that year. "Orochimaru, I am considering passing the position of Hokage to you," the third generation said in a deep voice. Orochimaru was surprised and said, "Old man, did you take the wrong medicine?" But the third Hokage had a serious face and no intention of joking. Orochimaru slowly frowned and then snorted. He said unhappily, "Didn't you think Minato was more suitable than me? Now you want me to be the Hokage?" The third Hokage sighed in his heart. Orochimaru was indeed upset about not getting support that year. Orochimaru was arrogant. He could refuse it, but you couldn't not give it to him. Orochimaru might not have had to be the Hokage back then, but the third Hokage's actions at that time made Orochimaru very unhappy. Third Hokage was old but very shrewd. He would never lose face at such a moment. He said bluntly, "I was wrong about what happened back then. It was not until now that I realized that you are the most suitable candidate for the Hokage." Seeing that Orochimaru's expression eased a little, the third Hokage added, "You see, if you become the Hokage, you can consult various secret books and precious experimental materials are also easy to obtain." Seeing that Orochimaru showed an excited expression. Chapter 182 Orochimaru's Trick. Itachi, Eye Fusion. How can you catch up with a team if you do experiments alone? You can form an experimental team when you become Hokage. The third Hokage continued. By then, personnel and resources will not be a problem. Whatever you want to study can be realized quickly. Orochimaru was obviously tempted, but after thinking for a moment, he gave up and shook his head and said, "You are right, old man, but I see you are busy in the Hokage office all day. If I become Hokage, won't I have time to do experiments?" The third generation hoped that Orochimaru would not be interested in these things, and hurriedly said, "This is simple, I will help you deal with government affairs first. Unless you discuss important matters, you can concentrate on doing experiments and no one will disturb you. I will hand it over to you when you want to take over in the future. Orochimaru seemed to find this acceptable and said, then let's just call it 050 old man. I don't care about the voting, you handle it yourself. Seeing Orochimaru agree, the third Hokage was relieved. Orochimaru asked, how do you plan to deal with the Uchiha clan? Since the third Hokage insisted on him becoming the Hokage, it must be because he has some ability to counter the Uchiha's financial strategy. The third Hokage asked, how does your cloning technology work on limb cloning? Orochimaru chuckled and said, old man, cloning limbs is a small matter, but there is also the possibility of failure. The cost of stimulating the birth of organs is not small, and it is not something that ordinary ninjas can afford. The third generation felt relieved and smiled, it's much lower than the cost of training elite ninjas. If you can help me find more human experimental materials, it would be good too. Orochimaru stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. The third Hokage said, most of the ninjas who retire from Konoha due to injuries every year are disabled. If your cloning technology can be improved, it can add a lot of combat power to Konoha. Old man, think it through. Once the cloning technology is leaked, other ninja villages may covet it. After all, the technology that can regenerate broken limbs can directly save many disabled ninjas. In each ninja village, there are not a few ninjas who are disabled due to missions every year. The third generation is satisfied that Orochimaru is still considering the village. He nodded with relief and said, at present, this is the only way. As long as the technical threshold is high enough, other ninja villages will not covet it. Orochimaru nodded after hearing this and said, okay, you arrange it. I am busy cloning Fugaku and Itachi's eyes recently. In Konoha village, anyone who was named by Kawasaki at the Konoha meeting will go to the Uchiha clan land on the same day, and without exception, they received their rewards. No one expected Kawasaki to be so direct. Real money was distributed on the spot. Boxes of banknotes came from the hands of Uchiha. Let representatives of various clans give thumbs up to Uchiha in their hearts. Look at Uchiha, this is called solving practical problems. Much better than those who can only shout slogans. If such Uchiha wants to run for Hokage, everyone will support him. Undercurrents are surging in the village. Everyone wants to see how the third Hokage will respond. After all, the third generation has never thought of letting Uchiha inherit the position of Hokage. But no one expected that the third generation would actually nominate Orochimaru. Advertisement today, new news was released on the bulletin board of Konoha. In short, Orochimaru has made great progress in scientific research and can treat limb disabilities through cloning technology. In the past, ninjas who had retired from the battle sequence due to injuries and disabilities have the opportunity to rebuild their limbs and become healthy again. As soon as this news came out, the whole leaf was shocked. As one of the 5 major ninja villages, Konoha has been in war for many years, and countless ninjas have retired due to injuries. In this world, most ninjas do not work. They need to complete a large number of tasks to support their families. Tasks come with risks. Once a ninja becomes disabled, he or she basically says goodbye to this industry. They can only live an ordinary life. The hardship of life can be imagined. It is conceivable how much Orochimaru's reputation has increased after the Hokage released this news. Although the current cloning cost is high, the announcement pointed out that with the development of technology, the cost will gradually decrease, and ordinary people will be able to afford it in a few years. People are eager to find Orochimaru to ask for details of cloning. However, the third generation knows Orochimaru's temper. Therefore, Orochimaru's new laboratory is located underground, and few people know about it, and no one disturbs it. So, those who need to go to the third Hokage. For ordinary people, the cost of repairing broken limbs is unbearable. For the big ninjas, as long as they can afford it, it is not impossible to let Orochimaru clone for them. It is easier for a large ninja clan to cultivate excellent ninjas. In this case, it is inevitable that there will be injuries and disabilities. Among them, there are many elites among the elites, and many of them retired due to injuries. Every time such an elite is rescued, it will greatly enhance the strength of the family. Therefore, many ninjas are thinking about what to exchange for the third Hokage at the next Leaf Conference. Let Orochimaru help treat their people. Many civilians only noticed Orochimaru's information, and some people noticed the message below. Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Itachi have injured their eyes. The third generation has asked Orochimaru for cloning treatment. Is this the reconciliation between Uchiha and the third Hokage? I don't know. Isn't Master Tsunade at Uchiha's place? Why can't he heal the eyes of Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Itachi? Does this mean that Master Orochimaru is stronger than Master Tsunade? Advertisement, that's impossible. Maybe they each have their own specialties. Master Tsunade's medical skills are definitely better than Orochimaru's, but Orochimaru can clone his body, so his group is not small. Yes, I heard that Kakashi's eyes were also healed. In Orochimaru's laboratory, Itachi lay quietly. After all, the fusion of the eyes was not a trivial matter. Orochimaru naturally did not dare to be careless. Insisted on letting Itachi rest in bed. From the severe pain at the beginning of the nerve connection surgery to the present days, the pain has gradually subsided. But the eyes still have pains from time to time, and after each pain, the pupil power is strengthened. Itachi carefully recorded all these changes. Shisui is responsible for taking care of Itachi's life every day and chatting with him to relieve his boredom. Orochimaru comes once a day, removes the bandage to change the dressing for Itachi, observes the progress of the fusion of the two eyes, and makes records. Now Itachi's eyes are connected in the eye sockets, and the shape is like an inverted number 8. Itachi's eye fusion process is slower than expected, but this is not necessarily a bad thing for him. The longer the fusion time, the more time for the pupil power to improve. Fugaku did not feel uncomfortable after losing his eyes. After all, he could not see before. However, outsiders always feel horrified when they see his sunken eye sockets. Since the third Hokage pushed Orochimaru to the front, people from the ninja clan often bring their disabled clansmen to Orochimaru. These people have an exchange of interests with the third Hokage. As we all know, biotechnology requires a large number of experimental subjects. And those who come to the door have become the guinea pigs for Orochimaru's experiments. Chapter 183 Pain 6 Paths. Eyes of the Immortal. Cloning technology is not easy, and there are risks involved. If it fails, deformed limbs may be born, and it costs a lot of money. Now someone is covering for Orochimaru. He doesn't have to pay for it himself, and he can also accumulate experience and improve his reputation. The third Hokage also uses this opportunity to make friends with various ninja clans. Killing multiple birds with one stone, with many benefits. On the Uchiha side, Kawasaki simply indirectly distributes money to various ninja clans. Many people are clear in their minds. Uchiha Kawasaki is going to compete with Orochimaru for fame. Battlefield of Water Country. Surin Island, the base of Mist Shinobi. Since the last time Mist Shinobi attacked Cloud Shinobi but failed. Mist Shinobi fell into a very passive situation. Attack, no one can beat the movie. Not to mention the lightning fast attack of Raikage, even without lightning style chakra mode, his defense is embarrassing. Those with weaker strength can't break the defense at all. If you don't attack, you can only wait for the arrival of Cloud Shinobi army. Although Akatsuki Organization took advantage in the early stage, there was no news of Deidara and Scorpion. Fei Pu was injured and missing. Now Akatsuki Organization only has Juzo, Hoshigaki Kisame, and Zabuza. Today, Kisame brought the news that Terumi Mei had been waiting for a long time. The leader of Akatsuki, Tendo Pain, has arrived. Since he is here, why don't we meet? Terumi Mei asked puzzledly. Kisame shook his head and said, the leader is surveying the terrain and preparing for the arrival of the Cloud Shinobi army. He will choose to attack the rear of Cloud Shinobi when the Cloud Shinobi army arrives. Terumi Mei was confused and said, attack the rear. How to attack? Cloud Shinobi has 5,000 soldiers. Even if Akatsuki is powerful, it can't just break into Cloud Shinobi. Kisame grinned and said, you will understand when the time comes. Kisame did not intend to hide it from Terumi Mei. It's just that even he himself didn't know how the leader would attack, so he couldn't explain it clearly. Terumi Mei had no choice but to find Biwa Juzo, who had returned to Mist Shinobi, asking for his own area. Maybe he could get some information from him. Terumi Mei told Biwa Juzo about her worries. And Biwa Juzo had great confidence in the leader of Akatsuki. Advertisement, don't worry, Mizukage-sama. The leader of Akatsuki is very powerful. If he decides to attack Cloud Shinobi's rear, we just need to stabilize the front battlefield. Terumi Mei is quite satisfied with Akatsuki's performance so far. The heavy damage to Killer Bee and Wooden Golem did reduce Mist Shinobi's losses to a certain extent. But Terumi Mei is still worried about the upcoming landing battle of Cloud Shinobi's army. Mist Shinobi will not pin its hopes on the mercenary organization unless it is in desperate situation. Seeing Terumi Mei so anxious, Wang Zhang revealed a secret. Mizukage-sama, let me tell you a piece of news, Biwa Juzang said with a smile. Why'd I trust the leader of Akatsuki so much? Terumi Mei was also quite interested and asked, tell me about it? Biwa Juzo thought that Pain would show up on the battlefield sooner or later. So he told Terumi Mei. The leader of Akatsuki is called Pain, and he has the legendary Sage's Eye, Rinnegan. Terumi Mei was surprised and said, Rinnegan? Really? Isn't it unique to Sage of Six Paths? Biwa Juzo smiled bitterly and said, indeed, I couldn't take a single move from Pain. Pain's Rinnegan is not only amazing in combat power, but also has many special abilities. Although Cloud Shinobi has 5,000 people, if Pain says he will attack the rear, he must be sure. Terumi Mei was shocked that Pain had Rinnegan. But at this moment, the stronger Pain is, the more at ease she feels. I feel relieved now. Terumi Mei put her mind at ease and waited for the arrival of Cloud Shinobi. The front line of the Water Country battlefield. The Cloud Shinobi army finally arrived. Countless ships approached the shore, and the Raikage and his party also arrived. Prepared to take everyone ashore. Many scouts were scouting Mist Shinobi's movements. Everyone knew that Mist Shinobi would not let Cloud Shinobi land easily. Mist Shinobi had indeed gathered its forces, but they did not attack immediately, but kept a close eye on Cloud Shinobi. Cloud Shinobi's personnel began to disembark one after another. Due to the large number of people, the front was still landing, and the back was still at sea. At this time, high in the sky, Pain's hand was on Conan, staring at Cloud Shinobi below. Conan, the balance maintained by the tailed beasts is too fragile. Conan looked at the ships that kept heading towards Surin Island and sighed. Yes, even a big country like the Land of Water cannot escape the fate of being invaded. Pain was silent for a while before slowly speaking. After Cloud Shinobi learned that Mist Shinobi had no Jinchuriki, he was eager to invade and burn the flames of war on the Land of Water. Advertisement: the strong only want to conquer other countries, and never consider how many innocent people will die in the war. Kawasaki is right, only when a greater threat comes will they cherish peace. Now, let them feel the pain, so that they will understand the preciousness of life. Conan knew Nagato's plan, and said with some worry. Do you want to use that technique? You are now transmitting chakra through relay? Pain was silent for a few seconds and replied. This is the safest way. I am sure that Obito is nearby. He is in the dark, and we cannot expose our whereabouts. Although there will be a delay in this state, the distance is far enough and it is safe. Conan knew that Nagato had been recuperating for this operation and had mastered what Kawasaki called the relay method. In comparison, she felt much more at ease. After all, Nagato's main body was 200 kilometers away from here in a straight line, which was quite safe. However, there was a small problem. After using that trick, Yin Dao would be out of control. But they were prepared and had a backup plan. Conan glanced down and saw the Cloud Shinobi people busy landing. Then let's do it this way, is this okay? Pain looked down coldly, and below were the Cloud Shinobi warriors who were ready to invade the Land of Water. Let's do it here. Conan responded, and her body suddenly turned into a piece of paper, slowly dissipating, and the paper wings behind her flew to Pain's back. And her real body was gradually dissipating, it turned out to be a paper clone. Pain was wearing a black-bottomed fire cloud suit, and as the wings of Conan's paper clone floated up, he slowly fell. He opened his arms and gathered them while descending chakra. 200 kilometers away from here, there is an isolated island. On the island stands a huge paper camouflage rock. Conan and Nagato's real bodies are hiding here. Due to the thorough preparation in advance, Nagato has plenty of time to gather his energy this time, and it seems much easier. Nagato has a huge amount of chakra gathered in his body, and his Rinnegan emits a powerful eye power. These chakras are passed to one of the 6 paths in the distance via the black stick behind him. Then this 6 paths passes it to the next one until it reaches Tendo Pain. This is the relay method proposed by Kawasaki. Although there is a delay caused by distance, it is safer. Although Pain is at a high altitude, his figure blocks the light and attracts the attention of Cloud Shinobi below and Mist Shinobi in the distance. It's someone from Akatsuki. Cloud Shinobi had suffered a great loss from Akatsuki and was impressed by Akatsuki's clothes. They quickly reported to Reikage, and Reikage also saw Pain in the air. What do the people from Akatsuki want to do? Reikage shouted anxiously. He was not easily deceived. Akatsuki's strength was beyond doubt, even his brother almost fell into their hands. His sudden appearance in the air at this moment was definitely not a good sign. Chapter 184. Shinra Heavenly Expedition. Let the world feel the pain. Reikage shouted. Everyone, be on alert, check if there are any ambushes around, and evacuate immediately. The Cloud Shinobi became cautious, and the team directly below Pain evacuated the ship. Mist Shinobi also saw Pain slowly descending from the sky. Terumi Mei guessed that this was the leader of Akatsuki. She was very interested in Rinnegan, which was a legendary existence. If Biwajuzo had not been a member of Akatsuki, Terumi Mei would not have known about the existence of Rinnegan. However, the distance was too far and too high, and it was impossible to see clearly. She stared at the battlefield, wanting to see how the leader of Akatsuki would intervene in the battle. On the reef by the beach, Obito and Kakuzu, who was forced to surrender, were also watching the battle. Nagato. I borrowed the Rinnegan from you for too long. Obito looked at Nagato in the distance and calculated in his heart. Kakuzu stood behind Obito, expressionless, not because he didn't want to sneak attack, but because he had already tried. Obito's ninjutsu is too strange, and Kakuzu still can't figure out how to attack him. He hasn't seen the leader take action for a long time. He looked past Obito and looked at Pain, who was falling from the air. Above the battlefield of the water country, Pain's landing immediately attracted everyone's attention. The spies of various countries were no exception. Everyone wanted to know how strong this member of Akatsuki was. According to previous intelligence, no one in Akatsuki can be underestimated. The paper wings behind Pain were given by Conan, and they are gradually dissipating at this moment. Pain's descent speed has accelerated. Chakra has finally accumulated. His lavender Rinnegan is gleaming. Under the powerful fluctuation of pupil power, the whisper of divine punishment echoed above Cloud Shinobi's head. War is always accompanied by casualties and pain on both sides. Cloud Shinobi, as the initiator of the war, are you ready to face God's punishment? Like a question, but also like talking to himself, contempt and disdain are hidden in the calm tone. Is this guy a lunatic from Akatsuki? As an impatient Reikage, he didn't take it seriously, but his inner anxiety drove him to order the Cloud Shinobi. Retreat first. All Cloud Shinobi personnel retreated hundreds of meters away from Nagato's expected landing point. They thought it was safe here. The announcement in the sky still echoed, and everyone gradually saw Pain's face and his special eyes. Advertisement. The wind seemed to be still, and the air was filled with a dull atmosphere. The birds in the sky and the fish in the sea seemed to have sensed a huge threat and fled madly. Feel the pain, think about the pain. Accept the pain, understand the pain. Those who don't understand pain won't understand true peace. Start from here. Let the world feel the pain. Pain raised his hands high, and a pair of lavender Rinnegan flashed in the backlight. The sky suddenly lit up, and the divine punishment came. Shinra Tensei. Crash. 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 A huge repulsive force erupted, and the sea surface instantly sank. The ocean collapsed suddenly as if it was squeezed by an invisible giant ball. The waves made a deafening roar. The violent shock wave pushed thousands of tons of seawater to the periphery, and huge waves rolled up at the edge of the depression. The repulsive force continued to erupt, and the sea continued to expand in all directions. Driven by the repulsive force, the huge waves surged to the surroundings with great momentum, unstoppable, boom boom boom. A sound like muffled thunder sounded. Cloud, who had just experienced a tsunami, Shinobi, facing a more terrible tsunami. Moreover, this tsunami is just around the corner. Hundreds of meters high waves, like the hand of a giant god, quickly knocked down. Cloud Shinobi's ship was like a toy, being pressed hard into the seabed. The hull was instantly shattered and disappeared without a trace. Cloud Shinobi, who had just retreated hundreds of meters, wished he had more legs and cried to escape. Unfortunately, the huge waves were too fast. Cloud Shinobi on the sea had no time to react, and he and the boat were swept to the bottom of the sea. Cloud Shinobi, who was a little further away, could not escape either, and could only watch the huge waves approach. Mabui was still on the boat at this time, and had just run onto the deck. The huge waves were approaching. Mabui looked at the huge waves that covered the sky and the sun in horror. She was usually calm, but she could not control her fear. She collapsed on the deck involuntarily. Reikage did not expect things to turn out like this. Even as powerful as Muvie, he was not much stronger in front of this disaster-level ninjutsu. Muvie roared loudly. Damn it, he released chakra with all his strength. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Lightning-style chakra surged out. Lightning-style chakra mode activated. A blue lightning streaked across the sea. Squeak, crackle, crackle. Countless holes appeared on the board in an instant. Mabui felt a tightness around her waist, and was held by the Reikage with one hand. The wind was howling, and Mabui had no time to speak. She was brought to the shore by the Reikage. A deafening roar suddenly sounded behind her. The huge waves hundreds of meters high swallowed up the Cloud Shinobi fleet in an instant. Advertisement. Under the surging waves, ordinary Cloud Shinobi ninjas had no power to fight back and were beaten to death mercilessly. Even the outstanding Cloud Shinobi warriors could not protect themselves in the face of such a huge force. Under the huge impact force, any hard object hitting the body would mean a tragic end of broken bones. Whether you can survive depends on God. The huge waves pushed the seawater straight to the coast. All the Cloud Shinobi ninjas near the coast were swept into the water without exception. The spreading sea water submerged the entire Surin Island, and the island was completely washed away by the waves. The Cloud Shinobi ninjas who managed to escape to the shore were all shocked and relieved at the same time, facing such a powerful spell. The Cloud Shinobi ninjas on the shore witnessed the whole process of the disaster with their own eyes. Nearly 80% of their ships disappeared without a trace. Thousands of lives were lost in an instant, right in front of them. As powerful as the Reikage was, he only saved Mabui. Many Cloud Shinobi ninjas were frightened and stunned, their teeth shattering. After the Shinra Tensei, the pushed-away seawater slowly retreated. When the sea surface closed again, the seawater collided with each other, stirring up huge water columns and roars. The sea surface could not calm down for a long time, and the wreckage of Cloud Shinobi ships and a few survivors were floating everywhere. There were only a few survivors, and they were all seriously injured. The Cloud Shinobi fleet suffered heavy losses, and Tien Bukunsen. Almost all of the more than 4,000 Cloud Shinobi, Chunin and Genin were buried under the huge waves. Less than 1,000 people survived. Terumi Mei of Mist Shinobi held a telescope, from Dino, and witnessed the whole process. She was stunned. It was really, someone broke into Cloud Shinobi alone and caused all this. Other Mist Shinobi ninjas were also stunned. They forgot to avoid the waves and were washed by the waves. Even Ibiki, who was located at a higher point on Surin Island, was soaked and could not escape the baptism of the waves. Other spies from the ninja villages were not spared. After being washed by the seawater, everyone was wet, pale, and trembling. Such a level and such a powerful technique is unheard of and unseen. Is this really something that humans can perform? Every spy was thinking, if such a technique was launched once in the center of their village, their ninja village might no longer exist. After a brief fear, all the spies recalled their mission. Such important information must be brought back to the village as soon as possible. As Pain fell from the sky, those who were close and had remote observation capabilities noticed Pain's unique eyes. Advertisement. Chapter 185. Summoning Technique, Tendo Pain. The information about the Rinnegan is not known to everyone. Even if the Rinnegan is placed in front of them, they don't recognize it. After all, it is only a legendary thing. Even in Konoha, only Jiraiya and the third Hokage know that it is the Rinnegan. But everyone is full of interest in exploring these eyes. Although Pain did not say it, other forces have guessed his identity. I'm afraid it is the leader of the Akatsuki Organization. Since Hashirama's death, there has been no natural disaster like power for many years. The information about the leader of the Akatsuki Organization spread like snowflakes. The Raikage was soaked and a raging anger burned in his heart. No matter how strong he was, he only saved Mabui. The salty sea breeze was mixed with the smell of death. Twisted limbs, broken necks, and chests pierced by shipwrecks. On the sea, the miserable conditions of Cloud Shinobi ninjas can be seen everywhere, and countless dying ninjas and a large number of shipwrecks filled the sea. Some coughed up blood while trying to stand on the sea. Some had their eyeballs detached, leaving only bloody holes on their faces, crawling on the wooden boards and dying. Some were deaf and could not hear their own voices in the cries for help. Some struggled to climb out of the water with their hands, but found that their legs were broken and they had no feeling. The entire sea was like a purgatory on earth. Although Mabui was rescued, she collapsed on the beach after seeing this scene and cried bitterly. Akatsuki, I will make you pay the price. The Raikage's voice was full of anger. However, there was no trace of Akatsuki on the sea. The remaining Cloud Shinobi ninjas began to search for survivors on the sea. Cloud Shinobi ninjas were all over the sea. Mist Shinobi obviously would not miss this excellent opportunity to attack. At this moment, a large number of Mist Shinobi ninjas gathered on the beach took the opportunity to launch a fierce attack. Terumi Mei led the Mist Shinobi ninjas and ordered. Don't get entangled with Cloud Shinobi. Kill them if you can, change targets if you can't. At this time, there were many Cloud Shinobi ninjas on the sea, and most of them were injured. Taking advantage of the opportunity at this moment would cause the greatest damage to Cloud Shinobi. If you encounter a stronger Cloud Shinobi ninja, there is no need to get entangled, just look for an easy target. Advertisement. After Terumi Mei finished the arrangement, she searched in another direction. Beside her, Hoshigaki Kisame and Biwajuzo followed closely, and Zabuza stayed behind temporarily due to his injury. Some Cloud Shinobi ninjas who were farther away were less affected and climbed up from the seabed after being injured. They didn't even have time to join other companions before they were beheaded by the search team of Tsunagakure. Here, Raikage found Killer B, Seiya, who was injured again, and Wooden Golem. Found Mabui and Samui teams, seeing Mist Shinobi attack. He hurriedly stopped Mist Shinobi's attack and said, Mabui, Samui, gather your people immediately and prepare to counterattack. Mabui was angry and hateful. Cloud Shinobi suffered heavy casualties and was seriously injured under this attack. Damn Akatsuki Organization, damn Mist Shinobi, ha. When Raikage saw Mist Shinobi attacking his injured brother, he immediately moved forward at full speed. Lightning-style chakra mode turned on, Raikage's body was covered with blue light, and his speed soared instantly. The target was directly aimed at Terumi Mei and the other two. Obito witnessed the entire process of Shinra's expedition from beginning to end. He had always regarded Nagato as a pawn, and he was deeply shocked. Nagato could actually develop Rinnegan to such a level. He knew that this move was a large-scale Shinra Tensei. It required a huge amount of pupil power and chakra to perform. And after using it, other abilities cannot be used for quite a long time. If Nagato continues to develop like this, there is a possibility that he will escape control. Obito has sent Kakuzu, and he knows that Nagato's control range is roughly between 40 and 50 kilometers. If Nagato's body can be found, Obito's eyes are deep, and the potential danger must be eliminated as soon as possible. Kakuzu has carefully searched all possible hiding places on the beach. But he still couldn't find Pain's whereabouts. However, he found the Akatsuki rings belonging to Scorpion and Deidara in a seaside cave. The two have lost contact since the last contact. Advertisement. The moment Kakuzu found the ring, his joy was beyond words. He was not willing to follow Obito, just because he couldn't escape, let alone beat him. In desperation, he had to succumb to Obito. Kakuzu scoffed at Obito's boasting that he was Pain's partner and the heir of Madara's will. The only leader he recognized was Pain. Although Obito's ability was strange and made Kakuzu dizzy, Kakuzu was not convinced. In Kakuzu's view, Obito was just a stray dog expelled by the Uchiha family. It was said that several battles with Uchiha ended in disastrous defeat. It was useless to beat him, only if you could defeat Pain could you reluctantly obey his command. The moment Kakuzu picked up the ring, he immediately used the phantom body technique to contact Pain. However, Kakuzu's thought wave was sent out, but it was like a stone sinking into the sea, and there was no response. It was as if the leader disappeared out of thin air. Kakuzu's face became quite ugly. He used to be free and enjoyed his favorite bounty hunter career. Day after day, he made money and saved money, and his life was so comfortable. Now Obito treated him as a tool. He never looked at him straight in the eye. It was so hateful. Kakuzu went back and forth to search carefully, but it was not to run errands for Obito. He thought that after finding the leader, he could get rid of the control of the king. Unfortunately, he turned the surrounding 50 kilometers upside down, but he didn't find any trace of the leader. At this moment, an Uzumaki suddenly appeared behind him. After using Shinra Tensei, Pain lost consciousness, fell down, and finally fell into the sea. Originally, this move would only make him lose power temporarily, but because Nagato was controlling Tendo Pain in relay mode. After Pain used Shinra Tensei, 6 paths could not be controlled, and Tendo Pain naturally lost control. Nagato in the cave suddenly opened his eyes, his thin body was covered with sweat, and his face was full of fatigue. Even the light of the Rinnegan dimmed a lot. Conan on the side knew that Shinra Tensei had been used and Tendo could no longer control it. Conan quickly transferred chakra to Nagato. After a moment, Nagato recovered a little and said, "That's enough, Conan." Conan then stopped and said, "Is it enough?" Nagato nodded and said, "It's enough to summon them back." Conan immediately unfolded the prepared scroll, which contained a summoning array for assistance. Nagato slowly pulled his hand out of the wooden cart. He slowly formed a hand seal. With his physical condition being so severe, even the speed of forming the seal became abnormally slow. Summoning technique. Bang 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 bang. 6 clouds of smoke rose, and all the 6 paths were summoned back. Nagato breathed a sigh of relief and put down his hand. Conan hurried forward to check on Tendo Pain. After all, it was made of Yahiko's body, and there could be no mistakes. Fortunately, Tendo Pain's body was extremely strong, and he only got his clothes wet when he fell into the sea, and his body was not damaged. According to Nagato's speculation, Obito was likely looking for him on the battlefield. If the mission had been completed, there would be no need to fight in vain. Chapter 186. Kill Mist Shinobi. Revenge. The battlefield of the Land of Water. Obito searched the area where Pain fell into the sea. He also found no trace of Pain. Obito felt something was wrong. After asking Kakuzu, he learned that even the shadow of Nagato's body was not found within a radius of 50 kilometers. Conan was also missing. Obito understood that something must have gone wrong. Otherwise, according to Nagato's temperament, he would not have disappeared after using Shinra Tensei once. On the sea, the Mist Shinobi clan was doing their best to encircle and suppress the injured Cloud Shinobi, and shouts of killing were heard one after another. But such a scene could no longer attract Obito's interest, and he urgently needed to find Nagato. Kakuzu looked at the Cloud Shinobi who was destroyed by a blow on the sea, and his eyes seemed to be touched. The sea surface was not calm for a long time, and the waves were surging. Neither the Cloud Shinobi nor the Mist Shinobi who were walking on the waves could move forward steadily. At this moment, a figure rushed over quickly, emitting a strong lightning-style chakra all over his body. Wherever he passed, the undulating sea surface was torn into pieces of foam, leaving a white waterline behind him. He rushed towards Mist Shinobi with a fierce momentum. All the Mist Shinobi along the way, without even looking at the Cloud Shinobi in front of them, dived into the water one after another, fleeing in all directions. Boom! Reikage stepped on the sea surface angrily, and the seawater exploded instantly, and a water column shot out to the sky. However, Mist Shinobi had already disappeared without a trace. He turned his eyes and looked at Terumi Mei and the other 3. Reikage stepped on the sea surface again, and the water surface sank and cracked. Reikage rushed towards Terumi Mei and the other 3 like lightning. Terumi Mei and the other 3 saw Reikage approaching, but they did not panic and formed seals together. Water style, water bullet technique, 3 water dragons suddenly appeared on the sea. Roaring and rushing towards Reikage, Reikage said with anger on his face, "Mist Shinobi. You can't escape." Driven by anger, Reikage's arm muscles bulged and swung out violently. Bang! 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 The 3 water dragons were blown into water splashes all over the sky. Huh? Reikage stopped in confusion. How could it be so weak? Advertisement, but he found that Terumi Mei and the other 2 turned into seawater. Water clone? Under the water not far away, the 3 people quickly moved away from Reikage. Terumi Mei suffered a loss once and no longer planned to fight Reikage head-on. There were still many injured warriors lying on the sea surface of Cloud Shinobi. Kill if you can, and if you encounter a strong enemy, immediately dive and evacuate. Even if Cloud Shinobi can swim, it is far inferior to Mist Shinobi Grandmaster in water. Mist Shinobi's mission today is to hurt as many Cloud Shinobi as possible. Kisame did not act alone. Kawasaki's plan has been successful. Cloud Shinobi suffered heavy casualties, and almost all supplies were lost. His current mission is to protect Terumi Mei. Biwajuzo experienced the last battle, and he knew the strength of the Reikage, so he did not dare to act rashly. If Terumi Mei made a mistake, it would be a loss, so he also stayed by Terumi Mei's side. Ching did not go with them, but directed Mist Shinobi to search for the lone Cloud Shinobi in the sea. Once a master appeared, Mist Shinobi would dive in full, not greedy for the results of the battle. A tug of war formed on the sea, and the strong men of Cloud Shinobi went everywhere to rescue. Killer Bee and Wooden Golem, both of them were not healed from their injuries, and could only transform into half-beasts at most. The 2 tried their best to pull back the Cloud Shinobi around them and gather them together. The 2 were angry and resentful, but wherever they passed, the Mist Shinobi did not fight them at all and fled directly into the water. If they chased them, they would only waste time saving other Cloud Shinobi. The busiest one among them was the Reikage, who used the high-speed movement of lightning-style chakra mode to shuttle across the sea. The Reikage's deterrent power was extremely great, and wherever he went, the Sonin would hide in hiding. After half an hour of fierce fighting, Cloud Shinobi finally gathered all the people, and Reikage was exhausted. Although Mist Shinobi lost more than a dozen people, she killed at least dozens of times more Cloud Shinobi, most of whom were injured before. Seeing that she could not gain an advantage, Mist Shinobi began to retreat slowly. Reikage's face was livid and he said, "Mabui, how many people did we lose?" Mabui was also soaked in seawater, with messy hair and a miserable appearance. But she still tried her best to complete the task. "Lord Reikage, most of our ships were sunk to the bottom of the sea, and Shunin and Genin suffered about 3,000 casualties. Now, we have less than 1,000 people left." Mabui said this number, and her heart was also desolate. Cloud Shinobi set out with more than 5,000 people, lost 700 on the way, and now lost more than 3,000 people, leaving less than 1,000 people. Although the remaining people are elites, the sacrifice of a large number of Chunin and Genin is enough to seriously damage Cloud Shinobi. Moreover, all the supplies on the ship sank. This battle against Mist Shinobi has been declared a failure. Next, it depends on how the movie plans. Reikage knows that the war against Mist Shinobi has been lost. Although there are many people in the Land of Lightning, those people cannot be mobilized. Moreover, since the Akatsuki Organization can come once, there will definitely be a second time. Please give flowers, advertisement. Therefore, he can't draw Cloud Shinobi to reinforce. There are only two options in front of him, one is to retreat immediately and stop the loss first. The second option is. Reikage glared and said, "All those who can fight, follow me to avenge our partners. Destroy Mist Shinobi. Avenge our partners." Cloud Shinobi felt so upset. They used to be the ones who were domineering, but this time they lost most of their troops before they even reached the shore. How could they swallow this? Under the leadership of Reikage, except for some seriously injured soldiers, the others followed the team and aimed directly at Mist Shinobi's base. The two ninjas Jinchuriki who could not fully transform into tailed beasts were also included. Those who withdrew from Mist Shinobi never expected that Cloud Shinobi would be so tough and refused to retreat despite heavy casualties. Terumi Mei and others went ahead and withdrew from the base. She didn't ask Kisame why the leader of Akatsuki disappeared after attacking once. Normal people can guess that it takes a huge price to cast such a technique. If it could be used continuously, Akatsuki would probably have ruled the world long ago. Akatsuki is strong enough, far beyond her expectation. Next, Mist Shinobi only needs to delay time, and Cloud Shinobi will naturally retreat. Terumi Mei summoned several senior executives and began to discuss strategies. Shing said calmly. "Cloud Shinobi is furious, we should avoid its edge and abandon this base." Zabuza wrapped in gauze also agreed. "We have won this battle, there is no need to fight with them." Terumi Mei agreed. Cloud Shinobi is in urgent need of supplies and reinforcements. As long as they delay for a while, they will have to retreat. Kisami's voice suddenly sounded. "It is best to act collectively when retreating." Water Country Battlefield. Mist Shinobi Base. Hearing Kisami's words, Terumi Mei asked in confusion. "Why?" In terms of safety, Mist Shinobi, as a local snake, evacuated in a scattered manner, and Cloud Shinobi would definitely not be able to chase them all. After all, the fastest Cloud Shinobi are only Wooden Golem and Reikage. Wooden Golem is injured and his speed is limited. Kisame grinned and said, "This way, the retreating Cloud Shinobi will be easier to deal with." Master sent a message that he has two old friends who want to teach Cloud Shinobi a lesson. Terumi Mei exclaimed. "Friends of Mr. Feibu?" Terumi Mei has seen Feibu's strength. He attacked Eight Tails Jinchuriki before and seriously injured Killer Bee, who has not recovered yet. Since he is Feibu's friend, his strength is beyond doubt. Chapter 187 Dead Bone Pulse. Terumi Mei's shock. Good. Terumi Mei was overjoyed. Give the order, gather and retreat. When attacking the Mist Shinobi base, as the fastest among the Cloud Shinobi, Kun Ren served as a scout. She ran in front and observed the movements of the Mist Shinobi. As expected in the movie, the Mist Shinobi did abandon the base and escape. But one thing was beyond expectations. What? The Mist Shinobi retreated together. Reikage was a little surprised, confirmed by Wooden Golem. Yes, I just detected that hundreds of people on Mist Shinobi Island are collectively retreating southward. Reikage was worried that the Mist Shinobi would flee in a scattered manner. Cloud Shinobi was not familiar with the terrain, and in the end, they could not catch many people. Now the Mist Shinobi are traveling in groups. Everyone, follow me to chase. Reikage rushed forward and chased in the direction of Mist Shinobi's escape. A large number of Cloud Shinobi followed closely behind. Naturally, he noticed that Mist Shinobi's unusual retreat must be a trap. Therefore, 087 did not dare to leave the team too far to attack alone. Reikage also observed along the way, looking for narrow areas to prevent Mist Shinobi from setting up another ambush. But everything was normal. Mist Shinobi only set up some minor obstacles to slow down Cloud Shinobi's pursuit. No actual damage was caused. Although the Mist Shinobi in front were more familiar with the terrain, their strengths were uneven. Many of them were not fast, not as fast as Cloud Shinobi. The Cloud Shinobi who survived the tsunami were all strong. This is why Cloud Shinobi chased Mist Shinobi even though he knew he was running away. Mist Shinobi ran away, Cloud Shinobi chased, about 2 hours later. Cloud Shinobi could already see the end of Mist Shinobi's team. Both sides consumed a lot of physical strength. The fatigue was obvious. It was not just them. During the war, many scouts collected intelligence from a distance. They also followed the two sides for a long time, and they were all exhausted. Raikage moved forward cautiously and encountered a trap. When he saw the tail of the Mist Shinobi team, he could not hold back and wanted to rush forward alone. At this time, all the Cloud Shinobi, led by Raikage, chased to an open area and the chasing team stopped. Because two people appeared in front of them, blocking the road. One of them, his appearance revealed his identity. White hair and green eyes, red makeup on the eyelids, and 2 cinnabar dots on the forehead. Advertisement: The Wei Yoruichi Tribe. Raikage looked at him in surprise. Is there anyone alive in the Wei Yoruichi Tribe? The Wei Yoruichi Tribe has a unique dress, and the Malu eyebrows on the forehead are very eye-catching. It seems that this person is not young. If he is a Wei Yoruichi Tribe, his strength must be good at this age. The other person has no special appearance, but he dared to stop so many Cloud Shinobi, so he must be no ordinary person. Raikage immediately became alert. These two were exactly Kawasaki's 2 clones. Kawasaki left them behind before he left. The purpose was to eliminate a few more Cloud Shinobi masters. Or to boost the morale of Mist Shinobi. Kawasaki used the transformation technique to transform into 2 people, one of whom looked like a member of the Wei Yoruichi tribe. The other wore a tattered men's kimono, tied his hair like a wandering samurai, and looked ordinary. The image of the Wei Yoruichi tribe was based on Kimimaro. But his face was much older, which was inconsistent with the current Kimimaro. Who are you? The Raikage narrowed his eyes and shouted angrily. He is usually quite reckless, but Cloud Shinobi has suffered losses repeatedly, and there are many people following behind him, so he must not act rashly. The Kagaya tribesman played by Kawasaki approached the Raikage, quickened his pace, and said in a cold tone. People of Cloud Shinobi, I think you are tired of living. You dare to act wild in my Mist Shinobi, don't even think about leaving today. Raikage was amused. He had never encountered an opponent here, and the other party was so arrogant. Kawasaki's clone just finished his show and was ready to take action. After all, Raikage is very fast. If he is hit close to him, it will not look good to disappear in smoke. Kawasaki's clone now activated the Curse Seal. Curse Seal level 3 right pointing arrow Curse Seal level 2. When the Curse Seal appeared, huge chakra surged out. Mist Shinobi's Biwa Juzo and Zabuza's eyes lit up in the back. Mr. Mizukage, this is the same technique as Master Hitaki. Terumi Mei carefully observed the runes that appeared on the man's body after the Curse Seal was activated. Since Hitake's attack on 8 Tails Jinchuriki, Biwa Juzo and Zabuza told Terumi Mei the details of the battle. Mentioned that this secret technique can provide a large amount of chakra. Enough to knock down 8 Tails Jinchuriki. Now Terumi Mei saw this technique again, her eyes fixed on the battlefield. Looking forward to what kind of shock master Hitake's friends will bring. If Kisame hadn't specifically explained that the moves of these 2 masters are likely to accidentally hurt friendly forces, she would have almost let the hidden village prepare a counterattack. Raikage snorted coldly and said, Mystification. Lightning-style chakra suddenly burst out from his body and rushed straight towards Kawasaki. Advertisement: Heavy flow. Raikage concentrated lightning-style chakra on his elbow and slammed it towards Kawasaki, who looked like a member of the Yoruichi clan. Dance. The dance of early ferns. A whisper echoed across the battlefield. Kawasaki disappeared in an instant, replaced by a bone spear that pierced out from the ground. Raikage smashed the bone spear with his elbow, but more bone spears began to break out from the ground. One after another, the thick bone spears continued to extend towards the direction of Cloud Shinobi village. Boom. 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 The speed was so fast that the ninjas of Cloud Shinobi village began to dodge with all their strength, but many were still not spared and were pierced by the bone spears. Countless bone spears covered the ground, forming a forest of white bones with no end in sight. After Kawasaki used the dance of early ferns, he could freely switch positions between bones. He used the huge chakra that flowed out of the Curse Seal to maintain this forest of bones. While moving freely in the bone forest, the entire bone forest seemed to be an extension of his body. With the huge amount of chakra provided by the Curse Seal, the bone spear grew wildly and continued to expand outward. Unless all the bone forests were destroyed in an instant, Kawasaki was almost invincible in it. Therefore, as long as this technique was not solved, Kawasaki could continue to harvest the lives of Cloud Shinobi village ninjas in the bone forest. And Kawasaki was decisive and never fought. Kirigakure naturally recognized this famous secret technique. Dead Bone Pulse. Terumi Mei was shocked. This member of the Wei Yoruichi clan actually mastered the Dead Bone Pulse. Dead Bone Pulse is a genius physique that the Wei Yoruichi clan has rarely seen in many years. As long as they can grow up safely, everyone can become a top master. Although the holders of Dead Bone Pulse often do not live beyond the age of 30, the closer they are to death, the stronger their power. According to Kirigakure's records, a Dead Bone Pulse owner in the Sengoku period lived to the age of 27. Under the joint attack of the 2 major families, he fell after defeating hundreds of Jonin and the heads of the 2 families alone. This directly led to the destruction of the two families. 0.9 From then on, people were in awe of the dead bone pulse of the Wei Yoruichi clan. Once the Wei Yoruichi clan gave birth to a dead bone pulse, they would secretly cultivate it until it was strong enough before making it public. Whenever a mature dead bone pulse appeared, other bloodline limit families would become restrained. After all, the lifespan of dead bone pulse was limited, so there was no need to fight for it. Later, the Wei Yoruichi clan was destroyed by Obito, and the entire clan was almost extinct. I didn't expect that there was such an old dead bone pulse alive. No wonder he was so powerful. We Kirigakure actually have such a master hidden? The ninjas of Cloud Shinobi Village tried their best to escape from the bone forest, but the bonesmiths kept emerging from the ground. They were constantly expanding the territory of the bone forest. In a blink of an eye, the forest made of bone spears surrounded all the ninjas of Cloud Shinobi Village. There were nearly 1,000 people. This level of chakra is terrifying.